2022, and it's approximately 6 o'clock in the evening. As you can see, we do have a quorum. All city council members are present, and I have asked council member Benny Martinez to please lead us in the pledge. If you'll please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Before we start agenda item number 2, just wanted to thank James Lee from the Helotes executive session to discuss the following. Section 551.071, consultation with the attorney regarding pending or contemplated litigation or settlement offers, or on the matter in which the duty of the attorney to the governmental body under the Texas Disciplinary Rules of Professional Conduct of the State Bar of Texas clearly conflicts with the Texas Open Meetings Act, RE City of Leon Valley versus 5622 Equity DE LLC, a Delaware limited liability company, DBA Vista Del Rey Apartments, located at 5622 Evers Road. So it is now 6:02, and the city council will move into executive session, and we will be back by 6:30 to start our regular meeting. Thank you all very much. We stand in recess. Monday, October the 3rd. And the next agenda item is citizens to be heard. I know we've got a lot of citizens this evening, and welcome. We already opened up the meeting at 6, so welcome on behalf of all the council and staff. If you are here for the John Marshall, we will hear from you at that particular, and it's right after citizens be heard. And then I'd like to, if there's no objections from the council, go ahead and move up the proclamation first before we go to the John Marshall. But is there anyone else in the chambers that is here to share their concerns about any other issue in the community? Or if you can't stay for another agenda item, then please, we'd like to hear from you now. And yes, Hilda, good evening and welcome.
Good evening, Council. As you know, the city and the council deals with a multitude of problems, some originating in our community, in our neighborhoods. The mayor shared that on a recent walkabout of the community, she learned that code compliance was a significant concern. Tonight, I'm here to thank the mayor and especially Dr. City Manager Crystal Caldera, the code compliance officers, police, and other staff that for addressing a chronic code compliance problem on our street. It was an excessive accumulation of debris that surrounded a neighboring home. I and other neighbors had noticed problems starting last year, but it took a determined effort by the code compliance officers, the police, and the city manager to more than once clear this property and get the homeowner in compliance. I want to assure the community that keeping our neighborhoods in compliance is doable. And filling the audit form starts the process. Be patient. It does involve a process, but the city staff does work to address properties that are not in compliance. So again, I just want to thank the mayor, city manager Crystal Caldera, code compliance officers, the police, and other staff that showed up to remove the mess. Our street, once again, is a welcoming and attractive area. Thank you all.
Thank you so much for those comments. Really appreciate that. And you're right, it is a process and we have to be patient. So thank you for those words. Is there anyone else that would like to address the council at this time? Please come forward. Okay, seeing no one else, then we will move to agenda item number 5, possible action on issues discussed in executive session if necessary. And we only got an update and there is no action at this time. So under presentations, if there's no objection, I would love to ask Courtney Schimmerhorn. Come on, I'm just going to call you Courtney. Okay. I got a wonderful email about 2 or 3 weeks ago asking if we would recognize World Teachers Day, which is October 5th, 2022. I didn't even know we had a World Teachers Day, and I said, most definitely. I used to be a teacher, so I'm a little prejudiced there. So I'm so glad you're here, and let me come down, and I'll love to read the proclamation and then give it to you, and then ask for your comments. Okay. And so did everybody get a blue ribbon? Y'all know about blue ribbons? Test. Okay. Courtney, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
All righty. Thank you. I'll let you hold the ribbon. Yes, you can. Now, everybody needs to get one of these ribbons and tie them around your tree, or any blue ribbon, because it's honoring our teachers. And we do have a few extras, and our city secretary said you can get them at the port, which is down the street, down the hall. So we'd love to share those ribbons, but no, that's perfect. That is perfect. Okay, let me read this proclamation. Proclamation, City of Leon Valley Teachers Day. Whereas the City of Leon Valley's future strength depends on providing a high-quality education to all students. And whereas teacher quality matters more to student achievement than any other school-related factor. And whereas teachers spend countless hours preparing lesson plans and supporting students. And whereas our Northside teachers have demonstrated great resilience, adaptability, and creativity during the COVID-19 crisis. And whereas our community recognizes and supports its teachers in educating the children of this community. And whereas #TeachersCan is a statewide movement supported by more than 125 partnering businesses and organizations committed to elevating the teaching profession and honoring the critical role teachers play in the success of Texas. And now, therefore, I, Chris Riley, Mayor, on behalf of the Leon Valley City Council, join #TeachersCan and its partnering entities across Texas in celebrating World Teachers Day and proclaims October 5th, 2022 to be the City of Leon Valley's Teachers Day. And be it further resolved that the City of Leon Valley City Council encourages members of our community to, quote, be a light for Leon Valley teachers, unquote, and personally express appreciation to our teachers and display a light blue ribbon outside your home or business the week of October 5th as a symbol of support for our educators. Signed by my hand on the 28th day of September 2022, Mayor Chris Riley. Let's yell, or yes, let's be the highest rafters on this proclamation. I love it. Especially what you went through during COVID, and then also teachers are leaving the profession in droves, and so we need to value our teachers. So what would you say?
Thank you. I don't need this. I can use my teacher's voice. So I just want to say thank you to the City of Leon Valley for honoring us with this proclamation. I am honored to represent Northside, honored to represent John Marshall High School, which is where I am currently teaching. I've been a teacher for 16 years in Northside and 22 years total, and as everybody knows, it takes a village, and so we are just so grateful that you all have issued this proclamation. It's so heartening and heartwarming to have the community step out and support teachers this way, because we need it. We need your support, so thank you so much. We appreciate it.
And what do you teach?
I teach U.S. history, and I'm also the swim coach. I'm the water polo coach, and little plug. So our water polo boys are going to the playoffs, and so if you like water polo, it's super exciting. We'll play our first playoff game on Tuesday. Not sure when or where yet, but next Tuesday. So keep us in your thoughts.
Well, thank you. Let's take it.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Can we take a picture?
Oh, sure.
I'm going to hold this up. Thank you.
Good luck with it. Okay. So, let's move on then to presentation number 1. Presentation, discussion, and possible action on John Marshall High School traffic calming. And before Melinda Mortz begins her presentation, I just thought I would go over kind of the process that we'll use tonight. First, I'd ask the staff to please give me a timeline on how long have we been dealing with this issue. I know it hadn't been 50 years, so I've just got a brief summary of what we've been dealing with over the last couple of years. And then I'll ask Melinda Mortz, our Public Works Director, to give her PowerPoint presentation. And then I'd like John Marshall to go next. If you have, we'd like to hear from you, because I've talked to Board Member Melissa Chumley. Thank you for being here this evening. And Principal Richard Holly, that's right. And he's only been there 6 weeks. So welcome. Like I told him, baptism by fire. You just kind of get thrown in there. So, And then the city of San Antonio, do we have Chris Georges here this evening? Oh, hi, how are you? We'd like to hear from you, especially about that light at Eckert Road. Okay, great. And then I'd like to call on our chiefs, Chief Naughton and Chief Gonzalez, if you'd like to weigh in on whatever thoughts you have on this issue. And then we want to hear from you, the public. Okay, we'll hear from you. And then, I'm sorry, council, but y'all are going to go last tonight. Okay, with your input and then whatever we want to go from here. So that's it for tonight. I think it'll be a good, and so I'm gonna allocate about an hour. If we can get through before then, fine. If we need a little bit more, I'm real flexible. But Ms. Chumley, did you have something?
I just wanted to introduce our government relations
Sure.
director at Northside, Kelly Rosti,
Oh, yes, I got an email from you.
here as well.
Yes, thank you, Kelly. Nice that you're here. Okay, so I'd asked for this timeline because I was just kind of curious as to, how long we've been dealing with this. But in 2017, this council passed an ordinance making Bluebird and Stebbins a four-way stop. And then in 2018, we constructed a crosswalk at Balke and Hebner Road. In September of 19, the staff reached out to the city of San Antonio and asked them to increase the timing on that light on Eckert and Bluebird, and it was performed. Also in 2019, in October, we sent a letter to the Northside Engineering Director asking them how we could mitigate the traffic around the school. Again, another letter in October of 19, where we sent a proposed traffic mitigation plan to Northside, directing traffic around the high school. And then in 19 and 20, that was when Northside started to get building permits for their new magnet school additions and alterations. So that was major, and you had a lot of construction. And then in January of 20, we had a discussion concerning traffic concerns in and around the high school. And in February of 20, short and long-term traffic circulation plans were developed. And then again in 20, and you can tell from February of 20, we didn't do anything because of the pandemic, right? And so then the next entry is in 22, February of 22, where we met with the Northside to discuss temporary traffic routing at Marshall. And we did have plans in March of 20, that's not right. Plans presented to City Council, I guess it must be 22. Anyway, we've continually tried to work with Marshall and met with to discuss the traffic flow. And in October 21, staff met with Northside to discuss a proposed extension to John Marshall Boulevard in exchange for closing Lobo and Robin. That was just last year. And then we contacted the Grange owner, staff did, to discuss a right-of-way acquisition for potential dedicated right turn lane on Bluebird. That's over there by the church, I think. And then in December, we had a presentation to the City Council on proposal to extend the John Marshall Boulevard and vacate Robin and Lobo and then dedicate it to Northside. March of this year, we had a presentation to council on an interim traffic control plan. And then in March of 22, Council Hefner and Bradshaw had a neighborhood meeting. I think it was just with your neighbors. I wasn't there, and neither was staff, but I think y'all had a small meeting with your neighbors, about 20 neighbors, to develop traffic mitigation options. And then Mr. Hefner received traffic proposal from Councilor Hefner to possibly change the street to one-way. That was in March of this year. And then in April, the staff met with Northside at City Hall to review traffic concerns. And then in May of this year, plans submitted for short-term traffic mitigation plan. And in June, city-generated traffic mitigation assessment report received. So you can tell we've done a lot. August of this year, Mr. Hefner, just this past August, came in front of on the dais, on the podium in front of the dais, and he did a proposal to close Thunderbird and Bluebird to through traffic from school. And in August, the staff met with Northside at Marshall to discuss short-term traffic mitigation. And in June of this year, we had two more, we had received a letter from Northside concerning the proposal. And I think all of us got it. It was a 5-page letter from Superintendent Woods. And at the end of September, meeting with Northside to confirm a plan for short-term traffic directional devices in front of school. And I might add that our city manager has also sent monthly emails, because we really wanted to have a joint meeting and we were not able to this year, but she diligently almost every month sent a letter to the Mr. Leroy to ask for a meeting, and we weren't able to get that. So anyway, so we're here tonight, and in August we had 3 proposals, and Melinda, if you'll begin with your PowerPoint. So anyway, I just want to say we've done a lot, and hopefully tonight we'll come together as a community, and whatever we end up doing, I'd like it to be a win-win for both sides, if we can, and maybe think outside the box at some other proposals. And you're going to see some of the proposals and how much they cost. They're very expensive. And so, Melinda, with that said, I will pass it over to you. Thank you and welcome. You bet.
Can you hear me? So here's John Marshall High School in Monroe Park. This is Eckerd Road up here. We've got Robin here, Bluebird goes back here, and then the rest of the neighborhood here. The high school underwent remodeling after becoming a law enforcement and medical magnet high school. The citizens in the surrounding neighborhood are objecting to the traffic through their neighborhood. They've got traffic congestion during morning, lunch, and after school hours. Students are throwing trash in the neighborhood. You have vehicles racing along Thunderbird, and school buses, lots of them driving through the neighborhood. So in March of 2020, we created a long-term traffic calming plan with Northside to assist in traffic control and try and get right away on Bluebird at Eckerd. Leon Valley was to construct concrete median at Robin and Lobo and to install left and right turn striping at Bluebird and Eckerd. And then the city of San Antonio was to provide some traffic striping on Eckerd and possibly revise the signal timing at Eckerd and Bluebird lanes. This is their long-term plan. So out here is Eckerd Road. And so the traffic would come in on Robin, go down, turn around in this parking lot here, come back out, and then go this way. Buses would come in
Now,
here.
when you say their long-term plan, is that Northside? Northside, okay, just want to be sure. Okay.
The buses would come in here, come through here, drop off, and then come back out, and then come back out Bluebird.
Okay.
So Northside is working on the city of San Antonio to increase the length of the signal at Eckerd and Bluebird. Leon Valley installed more speed limit signs, new Chevron signs on Thunderbird, and we did contact San Antonio to have the traffic signal timing revised. We removed the monument that was at the corner of Chaparral and Heidner, and then we were performing traffic counts on Thunderbird. The proposal by residents, they did not like speed humps. There were some other traffic calming solutions were also not preferred. They would like to close both Thunderbird and Bluebird at Stebbins, which would force the school traffic out to Eckerd on Bluebird. And so here's your closure points. This is Bluebird over here, and there's Thunderbird, and this is Stebbins. The road closure would require acquisition of right-of-way from adjacent property owners. The fire trucks, garbage trucks, box vans, those types of large vehicles would not be able to turn around without a cul-de-sac or a hammerhead at the end of each one of those streets. The students, teachers, visitors, vendors, and residents would only have one way in and one way out. So one way in would be Robin, one way out would be on Bluebird. If Eckerd Road is closed for emergencies, there's no other way for persons to leave the area. Residents that live on one side would not be able to get out the other side. The buses still have to pick up children in Monte Robles Park that go to the other schools. Northside has reduced the number of buses in the neighborhood from 38 to 22. First responders would also take longer to respond. So some alternatives. Northside would work with the city of San Antonio and Leon Valley to acquire right-of-way along Bluebird to do that widening of the roadway there. Northside has offered to provide more law enforcement along with Fair County, San Antonio, and Leon Valley to monitor and move the traffic on Bluebird at Thunderbird. And then we have, suggest some reconsidering other traffic calming measures. So if you close the road and put in gates, it's about 97,000. If you put in a hammerhead, it's gonna cost about $2,282,000. A cul-de-sac would be $2,429,000. The cost for speed humps is $5,500%.
Could you please define what a hammerhead is? I think we all know what a cul-de-sac is, but what is a hammerhead?
You know what a hammer looks like? You got the
Yeah.
handle and then you've
Okay.
got a head on each side,
Mm-hmm.
so that would allow the fire truck to back out.
Okay,
It's like that.
all right, thank you.
And that's all I have.
Okay, very good, thank you. All right, so lots of information, and Northside, Principal Holly, would you like to say something, or Board of Trustee Chumley, who would like to go next on Northside?
Yeah, we really don't.
And thank you for being here. I'm so glad that you were able to join us, and glad to meet the principal and your new government relations person as well.
You're welcome. And I really came to really hear
Mm-hmm.
a lot of
Okay.
this because I really don't want, let me back up. So first off, I'm Melissa Chumley. I'm the Northside trustee, but I'm also Leon Valley resident that actually uses those back roads to go to Marshall. I live in the Forest Oaks area. So I'm kind of here with two hats. I don't want, we have always had a good relationship with Leon Valley. Northside School District has really tried to work with the city, and I think the city has really worked hard with Northside as well. And so I think that I don't want to point fingers or say this was said or that was said. I think really at this point, I want to say I think that there was probably miscommunication on both sides. And I think that for right now, what we need to look at is working together and with the city of San Antonio to move forward to try to find some solutions. I will share with you that the plan that was showed, I'm not sure where that came from, and that's not actually a Northside plan.
Okay.
One of the things that has made it harder on our conversation is that we currently are in litigation on some, we're in litigation on some something that will have an impact on this. And we've been instructed by our attorneys to just not engage in any kind of conversation that would or could impact that litigation. And I think that that's part of what has been the misconnect on some of this. But that plan that you showed, I'm not sure where it came from or when. So I think that that just really illustrates that we need to all come together and talk about this. I do want to share from the school district's perspective some of the concerns, though you have them. But I will tell you one of the leading ones is if you shut those roads down and you limit the only access to and from Marshall is Eckert. So let's say if you had an emergency on Eckert and Eckert was closed and we needed to evacuate our children because of it. We wouldn't have any way to evacuate them because the only way that we would have with this type of a situation is on Eckert. I'm concerned as a citizen that we haven't had any traffic studies done on taking the traffic out of this area and putting them on Heidner Road, Bandera Road, and I know Eckert's not Leon Valley's responsibility, but I think we need to engage the city of San Antonio on that. But we really haven't had any kind of traffic studies done on if you were to close those roads, how is that going to impact the traffic we have right now on Evers, Heidner, and Bandera Road? And I think that that's something that we need to look at from a citizen's perspective. The other piece that I was concerned about, and again, this is speaking with my citizen's hat, is that the other subdivisions that are affected by that kind of change were not contacted. We're not part of this discussion. And I think they really need to be. Apple Creek, Pavona Place, Forest Oaks, Canterfield, Grass Valley, Seneca, all of those areas use that back area to take their kids to school, to Marshall. So this will have a large impact on them. It's not just the citizens of this subdivision. And I think that that's fair that we have a discussion. You know, I think what's gonna happen is this is one of those things where citizens, everybody's probably gonna have to give a little bit to be able to come up with a solution that will fit all of us. Now, from the north side perspective, number one, we want to maintain our relationship with Leon Valley. We feel very strongly about limiting the ability to move students out of Marshall only on Eckert Road. We've talked to our, police departments. We don't think that this is a good idea from a safety standpoint. The other piece is that when you look historically, so Marshall has been there 72 years. So I don't mean to make light of it, but when you move into a school that's been there for 72 years, you know that you're moving into a school system that has a high school. And again, I don't want to make light of that because I understand as a person moving into that subdivision how that would make you feel. I do think that the study that was done on the speeding, that there's ways to try to start getting the speeding to come down, calming, I really like that word on this. And part of it would be to have a police officer there, for a 2-week period even, I think. If you start ticketing students, they're gonna stop speeding. And I think that that's something that we need to look at as well. The other piece is that we did try to be a good partner. We went from 38 to 22 buses. I appreciate that was in your presentation. But we still have students to pick up in this area, and I don't have the count. I wanted to have that for you this evening because we still have middle school and elementary school students. And if you shut those roads, then we're talking about having to change that bus route to go back down Heidner, Bandera, Eckert, Lincoln to Rudder, or Heidner, Babcock, and back. So I just think that there's a lot of ripple effects that will impact a lot of families with doing this. And what I would really like to advocate to come from this evening is that we have a joint meeting, that we have a meeting with Northside, we have a meeting with Leon Valley, and that we have a meeting with the city of San Antonio, because all of us bear a part of trying to solve the situation that we're in. So thank you all for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for your words. We appreciate you being here. Mr. Georges, would you like to come forward? And I know you're with the City of San Antonio. Is it engineering department or
Public Works Department?
Public Works Department? And you are going to, I asked Dr. Caldera to have somebody from the City of San Antonio to be here because we keep talking about that doggone light at Eckert. Is there anything we can do to lengthen it? And I said, well, we need to have City of San Antonio here. So thank you so much. Could you address that for us, please?
No problem.
Thank you.
Again, my name is Chris Georges. I work for the City of San Antonio Public Works Department.
Mm-hmm.
The light there at Eckert and Bluebird, sorry.
Yeah,
Bluebird. It typically runs anywhere from about 140 seconds to about 100 seconds cycle where it repeats itself. It's a very basic light with just 2 different phases. You have Eckert, and then you have the exiting traffic and the commercial development across the street. Primarily with that light, with being as simple as it is, it really just has to split its time between the 2 phases. After some observations that we've been doing, we know that the city was contacted to increase the amount of green time that the light would let exiting traffic out from the campus. That was made back in August. We went out last week again and did some more observations. It's a very iterative process as far as whenever we make one of these changes to the light. It's very hard to get it right on the first try. During our most recent observations, what we noticed during the exiting traffic time is you get anywhere from about 12 to about 24 vehicles exiting when the light would turn green. Now that traffic light, the only way it knows when traffic is exiting is via 2 loop detectors that are on the driveway. And so one of the one of the challenges with that system is if there is no vehicle present on those loops, the light thinks there's nobody left to exit, and so oftentimes at a campus, I mean, safety is number one. We definitely don't want people racing around corners, but with that, it creates some gaps in the traffic, and the light thinks there's nobody left to go. And so sometimes the light will stay green for 40 seconds. The light can stay green for as long as 45 seconds during the peak. But if there's no traffic there, it won't stay green for 45 seconds. It may stay only green for enough to let 10 to 12 cars out there. So definitely, we've made some adjustments. It should be in effect for the dismissal that was there today. I didn't get a chance to go observe them. But yes, and so we are definitely looking at it and looking for ways to improve the way that traffic can exit the campus. I will say it is a difficult situation with having school students and having pedestrians crossing at the same time as the light, and so there's a delicate balance between letting cars leave freely while also keeping the intersection safe for any pedestrians that are crossing from the campus that are going across Eckerd. So I'm here just to basically listen, see if there's any listen to what concerns that there may be out there, ways that the light can be performing better, all the while staying in a safe manner.
Okay, very good. So 12 to 24 vehicles, and do you think that's the maximum amount of vehicles that can go through there?
Right, and so it all depends on how ready the traffic is. You go to some places, like you go to like a Chick-fil-A, and they got a thing like clockwork. You just move down. Right. I don't think we want the campus operating like a Chick-fil-A necessarily, but right. If drop-offs are happening, your driveway is about 250 feet long. That's enough for about anywhere from about 15 to 18 vehicles. After that 18th vehicle, that vehicle is now having to turn to get out of there, and so how much longer you want to make, how fast you want those people coming around that corner to make the light is always going to be the challenge, with just the geometry of the way that the campus is currently set. Right now, you only have one lane that turns left, one lane that turns right. The friction, like I said, is that just the length of that throat. Another friction point is the kids crossing the street right there.
That's right.
And so the light could stay green for 45 seconds, but if there's kids crossing there, we definitely don't want the traffic conflicting with them.
Okay.
So that's always going to be one of your challenges, given the current geometry of that driveway.
Very good. Well, if you'll stay, if we have any questions from the council at the end of the presentations, then I know they'd like to ask you. If you'll just take a seat, yes. And then I was going to ask our chiefs, Chief Naughton, and I talked to you earlier, and you said yes, I'll be glad to. And Chief Gonzalez, Chief Naughton is our fire chief, and Chief Gonzalez is our police chief. And I'd like to welcome both of you this evening, and thank you. If you will just comment on the proposed closing of the streets.
Good evening.
Good evening.
The fire department's concern is a generic concern. It's access to Marshall. Like what was previously said by, I think Ms. Chumley. If there's an issue at the front of the school, it blocks all access to the school if the streets are closed. The fire trucks are big. The information that Ms. Morris presented about cul-de-sacs and hammerheads comes right out of the fire code. With access, we would worry about having to get in, and we do go to Marshall often, being able to get in and make access to either an EMS call or a fire call there, and being able to get out. And if the two back ways in are blocked, that only leaves us one entrance on the front. And if there's an issue on the front, 5 o'clock traffic, 4 o'clock traffic, I don't know what is worse, 7 o'clock in the morning, it leaves us really no direct way to get in to that property. And from the city point of view, I think there may be a water issue, because we would be using, if there was a big fire, we would be using hydrants back into the neighborhood to be able to lay in. Fire hose. If there was an issue at the school, which is fully sprinkled, I don't anticipate anything, but if we bring a truck in and set something up to mitigate a fire, we just block the entire entrance to the school and access to either side of that building. So those are our concerns. They're the same concerns we have for every building. It's really not specific to Marshall, other than when you go down Bluebird and Thunderbird, if you block those off, you're gonna have to build, like Ms. Moore said, a hammerhead or a cul-de-sac back there to turn trucks around, and you're gonna have to have one right on the other side on the streets to turn around as well, unless there's an immediate turn that goes through.
Okay.
And then, again, water would be an issue to be addressed at a later time. I know that's our water system, and we can probably put a hydrant in wherever, but water.
Alright.
Access and delayed response time.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Chief. I appreciate those comments this evening. And Chief Gonzalez? Just generally, what would you say also?
Good
Thank
evening,
you,
Mayor
and
and
good
Council.
evening.
Same concerns,
Okay.
response, and the ability to get where I need to be, where my officers need to be. 5 o'clock traffic, I've got half my department on the front of Marshall, and then I get a shooting in the neighborhood. How am I gonna get there? Gotta go all the way around. So response, ability to get there, same concerns.
Okay.
Not much more to add.
Okay.
It's a safety issue.
Yes, sir. All right, thank you for those comments. I really appreciate that. And then, next is public comments. So I didn't know who in the chambers would like to address the council at this time, but if you do, just if you'll come to the podium and state your name and just generally where you live, and you have up to 3 minutes for your comments, and we'll try to get to as many. Oh, we will hear from everyone. So, yes, sir. And yeah, you can form a line if you'd like. I don't know how many people wanted to speak, but yes, sir.
Thank
Good
you,
evening
Mayor,
and welcome.
and City Council, and the people that are here, Northside. I'm Pastor Jeff Soffit from Grace Fellowship Baptist Church, and we're that building that's on Bluebird right there, that the road that everybody's discussing, and I know that all the issues that have been discussed have certainly. I mean, these are obviously some serious issues and things, and what our concern, just for our our community there for the church, is that we wouldn't be able to get our folks in to even to work, and we have programming going on 6 nights a week, 7 days a week, and two of those are after school that we have. We take care of Marshall kids at our church and programs on Monday and Tuesday evening. So we wouldn't be able to get our staff into there. Now I know that with all the other things, like I said, that have been stated are probably much more on a more heated end than ours, but we do want to serve the community, and we're there for that purpose, and certainly we don't want any of that to change or suffer because of that. And I'd be willing to have any discussion, to be part of the discussion too, to help solve whatever it could be. So thank you for
Thank
the
you,
time.
Pastor. We appreciate you being here this evening. Yes, ma'am. Good evening and welcome.
Thank you.
And if you want to take the mic and just bring it down just a little bit. Yes, ma'am. If you state your name and where you live.
My name's Elizabeth Siebert,
Okay.
and I live in Mount Robles Park on Redbird Lane.
Okay.
My in-laws built our house in 1948, and I've lived there over 30 years.
Wow.
So I've seen a lot of Marshall traffic go by. And I want to speak real quick about what's supposedly the traffic. Redbird and Chaparral. If they're coming down Bluebird or Thunderbird, that feeds into our streets. We get all the traffic. Now, in the morning, there is no traffic. I can hear the teachers coming to work, but it's not lunchtime. I don't even know when their lunchtime is. Now, the afternoon, that's where the lines are. But I will say, it takes about 15 minutes for the buses and the cars to get through, and I'm in the middle of Redwood. And if I happen to walk in my living room and see the buses and I think, oh, school's out, I don't even know. I have never had a problem with loud music, with the kids getting out of their vehicles. If I have to leave, they're very generous and let me out or let me into my driveway. Which brings me to the garbage. Now, as a homeowner, everybody has garbage if you have a car go by. There's a little bit of garbage, but I will also say, I have garbage on weekends, I have garbage in the summer, and not too long ago, I had a couple walking by with a dog, and he threw his cup in my yard. That was in the evening. I'm not saying the kids don't do it, I'm saying it's just not the children. The speed limit, a lot of people do not follow the 20 miles per hour. Nobody does high speed through there, no one. The buses go fast sometimes, teachers go fast, maybe I go fast. We do, but nobody does high speeds. And in the afternoon, the children can't because it's bumper to bumper. So they just don't. I'm concerned about all, like everybody said, the traffic going out Hepburn. I am a member of Grace Fellowship Church. To go to church, I have to go out and around and come all the way to church. The same thing with the police and the fire, like they said. If something happened to us, if something happened to me or anyone, they're not going to get to us, and that does concern me a lot. I just feel that and another thing, we did not know, some of us found out about this last night. I know that they said there was like 20 people, we didn't know, we had no idea. And we just don't, we need to be informed when you're gonna cut us off. What we consider almost a punishment is something that I feel that they're trying to take care of that happens maybe 30 minutes, 5 days a week, 9 months, that's it.
All righty.
You know, and to me, that's a big thing.
Thank you, Ms. Seaver. We appreciate your comments this evening. All right. Next. Good evening and
Hi, how
welcome.
are you? I'm
Just
Sharon
fine.
Ortiz.
I'm sorry, your name
I'm
is
Sharon Ortiz.
Sharon Ortiz.
Yes, ma'am. I'm the Young Valley resident. I've been a resident for 15 years.
Okay.
And I appreciate, ma'am, before me, what you said. Thank you, appreciate that. I drive my 2 sons to school, to Marshall High School, every day. In the morning, I'm there about 8 o'clock in the morning. As she stated, the traffic is not that heavy. It takes me about 5 minutes to get them there. After school, it's about 15 minutes, you know, on the traffic. Now, the suggestion that was made about the speed bumps for the neighborhood, I don't have a problem with that. I don't live in that neighborhood, but, you know, this neighborhood can't have it both ways. Hey, I don't want you driving through here. We give you a suggestion, and now you're saying, well, I don't want speed bumps in my road. Can't do that. And again, as the chief stated, for all the parents here, our kids being in school with the climate that it is today, no gates, no amount of speed bumps, no anything. If there's an emergency, it's gonna stop any parent from going those back roads to get to the school to our students, okay? I understand that, you know, it's only one way. People, you know, hey, I got things to do today, you know, I don't wanna be sitting in traffic, nobody does, but that's just what it is. They can't just say, hey, I don't like you driving through my neighborhood. And she's been there, she said something like 30 years. She's seen all the traffic. And I've seen that there's a lot of new construction there as well. Those residents knew they were getting a home right behind the high school. If they did any research, they would have known, hey, 8 o'clock, everybody's coming, 3 o'clock, everybody's leaving. Is there this somewhere I want to be? They can't just say, hey, I like this neighborhood, it's great, big yard, scenic, got deer coming around. And then at 3 o'clock say, well, I don't want you going through here. That's not a private community. Those roads are not private roads, they're city roads. They're open to everyone.
Okay.
And that
Thank
is
you
my
for those
concern.
comments.
Thank
Do
you for
appreciate it,
your
Ms. Ortiz. Okay. I'm sorry?
I'd like to make a comment. This was to comment on what was said before.
Okay, well, you know, I think we were gonna
I know.
keep it to the end.
I
I think
know.
we're gonna keep it to the end. Let's hear from, because if I give it to you, then I'll have to hear from everybody else. So, thank you. I appreciate that, Mr. Martinez, but we will hear from you as well. Good evening and welcome.
My name is Annette. I live off of Forest Way. It's a very busy street. People do not stop at the stop sign. They are flying by. And never, ever, ever would I think, you know, I'm entitled to shut off a road because it's just
Excuse me, let's keep our, let's listen to Ms. Ramirez, but not be
driving.
disrespectful.
There's a elementary at the end. I feel really bad for the people that live right there because their house is blocked all the time. They've never ever complained, ever. So for two people to get up and think that you are entitled to close off a road that does not belong to you, you didn't put that road there. It's absurd. Mr. Bradshaw, when you ran, your campaign slogan was, do you remember? I will represent you. How in the world can you represent us if you're blocking us? Like, that doesn't even make sense. So I really hope that you think about your words and you act on them by not passing this.
Okay.
Mr. Hefner, there was a couple things in here. You're a board game player. You like Settlers of Catan. So I was like, what's that? I don't know what that is, but you seem to have done pretty well. You've gone to like championships and stuff. So I like board games. Well, I looked it up, and there's a lot of strategies to the Settlers of Catan. One of them, very important one, is building roads and making sure those roads are set for your settlers. The ability to build this many roads could come in handy near the end when those 2 extra points could mean the difference between a win and a loss. I think if you try to run again and you close the roads, you will not win. Those will be the difference. So I find it absurd. I've had 2 kids go through Marshall. There's a problem everywhere. If you don't like traffic, you need to live out in the country. Put your house on property where there's nobody else. That's just what it's going to be.
Thank you, Mr. Ramirez. Okay, excuse me. Yes, ma'am. Good evening and welcome. If you'll state your name and where you reside.
My name's Lisa Kerber. I'm a citizen of Leon Valley. I live in the Grass Valley subdivision. So we also have traffic coming through, right? Cutting through to get around the Bandera and Hebron traffic, but it's a public road. I pay my taxes. I pay for taxes for these roads too. Everybody's already said everything. I just wanted my voice to be heard. So my son went to Marshall, graduated last year. I have another son at Marshall. My husband went to Marshall about 22 years ago, and he showed me how to cut through the back roads to get to Marshall safely. So it says it's about the same as it is now, and not much change. He's also a San Antonio firefighter, so understands safety. So just think when you look at the overall benefit versus harm, right? So let's figure this out together. But if you look at that, everything I hear points more towards harm with safety and our kids' safety. That should be our priority here.
Okay. Thank you so much, Lisa. Do appreciate that. Okay, Mr. Cole. Good evening and welcome.
Thank you, Mayor Council. Evan Bull, Timberhill Comments. I'm kind of baffled once again how we've gone, probably this is the 4th time this conversation's come up, but after the last couple meetings that I did watch, I went over, and I realized that this council backtracked very slowly from a starting point of common sense that would have provided this council with the means to fund a solution that didn't involve closing these roads. It would have involved actually increasing the public safety of the area by providing an additional officer specifically to sit there and ticket those that violated the law and to provide the presence to deter any sort of violation of the law above and beyond that. And as over the course of the last 2 months went through, this council decided it was going to really limit itself in what positive and safe solutions it was going to provide to this community. And I've read the letters that have gone out, I've read the packets as they've been coming through, and I know when the last time this was a discussion, I said then this is a very poor path to go down, and it would not sit well with really anyone, and you are now seeing that. I provided the pathway to which many of us would feel safe even Councilman Hefner and Councilman Bradshaw having a dedicated police officer in their neighborhood, along with those who live in the Monte Robles area, and y'all decided against that. Why is that? Why choose a path that doesn't serve the community in any positive fashion and brings concern not just to our citizens, but to San Antonio, Bexar County, and Northside, to warrant such a response from the superintendent as it was? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bull. Anyone else? Yes, Ms. Sines, good evening and welcome.
Hello, everybody. My name is Jessica Sines. I live on Thunderbird. I just want to say thank you to parents in Northside for coming out, because since we've been talking about this, we haven't seen anybody or heard from anybody. And I want to make a couple of things clear. It wasn't Jed Hefner or Will Bradshaw that suggested we do any of this. It was concerned neighbors who were trying to come up with a solution. And my husband and I have been very vocal about our concerns. We don't care that you guys come through the neighborhood at all. That's not our issue. It's when we have kids barreling through and almost dying in front of my house, knocking out a power pole and seeing a little girl's forehead split open, clear to the school. It's things like that. We've only been there 3 years. There's 3 major accidents that have damaged our property. We don't ask anybody. We don't go after parents. We don't call the school. I mean, we do realize the school doesn't have any, you guys don't have any control after the kids leave your campus. We wanted to meet with John Marshall or Northside or somebody to help come up with solutions. We have talked to City Council about maybe having a police officer regularly. We were told that can't happen because we don't have enough staff, and that's okay. I mean, we're trying to take things as they come. But I did want to make that clear. You guys have it wrong. Basically, because Mr. Hefner and Mr. Bradshaw live in our neighborhood, they're the easiest for us to communicate with when we don't know which route to take. They just offer an ear to hear us out, to hear about our concerns. Again, I'm not even talking about our damaged property regularly when we have kids walking through our property, even though we're fenced. Yes, we chose to move there. Yes, we knew what we were getting into when we were moving behind the high school. We realize that. Again, we don't call parents. We try to handle things on our own, especially when I have my retired dad living with me and then him being threatened regularly because he says, hey, you're not supposed to be on this property, it's private property. I get all that. Kids are gonna be kids. I have 2 boys. We homeschool. It's just something that we decided to do. We adjust our life because of traffic, because of kids outside who have got into verbal altercations. Again, I know those are just kids being kids, but I definitely want everybody to understand that when we started looking at this as an issue, it had nothing to do with blocking buses, blocking people from bringing kids in or bringing kids out. We realized that, you're going to need to use the roads. We're just trying to figure out something. That was a suggestion, blocking the roads. We didn't know whether or not it could be done. It was just a suggestion along with a lot of other suggestions. So I appreciate you guys coming out and sharing your concerns with us too. I mean, let's get together and do something together to fix it.
That's a good idea. Thank you, Jessica. I do appreciate it. All right. Yes, Ms. Conrad, good evening and welcome. And
good evening,
glad to see you.
Council. I've lived there 50 years.
50 years.
I top it off.
You
I'm
get
an old grouchy.
the
I'm an old grouchy lady. We have seen all kinds of stuff through the school. I realize the school can't take care of the kids once they're off the campus. But they have, you talk about speed bumps, they're gonna drive through our yard. I know it. Unless Leon Valley wants to put curbs up to keep them from doing that, maybe so. But we've tried lots of ways to control this stuff. We used to have a policeman that parked in our driveway. He ticketed the speeders. You know what? The parents revolted and said, you're entrapment. You can't do that to our kids. So that stopped. So we have a stop sign at Stebbins and Thunderbird. I would venture to say at least 50% that go through there do not stop for that stop sign. Come out and watch it. Sit and see what we see every day. And like Jessica said, the accidents have been horrible. In the last 3 years, I know of those, but we've had lots of others. One night it was a kid in a stolen car, same pole. You know, it's just, it happens over and over. I can't tell you how many mailboxes we have replaced. And I think if Marshall, if they wanted to do this increasing of Northside, if they would have come to, let the neighbors know what was gonna happen, how many more cars we were gonna have. It's increased terribly. I think that should have been the discussion before the school was ever remodeled and enlarged.
Okay, very good, Ms. Conrad. Thank you for those comments. All right, yes, Mr. Mata, good evening and welcome.
Yeah, Eric Mata Canterfield. I'm an alumni of Marshall, and going back to the early 90s, I mean, these were issues then. And I think for a lot of parents that have had kids that went there even before me, they know these are issues. I think if there's a lesson to be learned here, it's for us to come together and discuss these issues, not to be pointing fingers, not to take advantage of it and use it as an opportunity to turn it into an opportunity to gain some political points in some way or another. I know for a fact that council members here have lent their ear to the discussions and the possible solutions. I have not heard anyone here on council say that they've decided on some of these measures that personally, yes, I do agree are extreme and not reasonable and not realistic. But again, here we are, and I think, it's an opportunity for people to come together that don't normally come to these meetings and understand how this process works. So, as someone who normally comes, I want to say thank you to all the parents that are here to express this, and hopefully we come to a good solution here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mata. I do appreciate that. Mr. Sines, did you have some other comments, please?
Yeah, absolutely.
John.
Hi everyone, my name is John Sines. So, welcome, ISD and parents. Mother was a retired teacher at CC ISD, like 30 years, so a lot of respect. One thing that I do agree with Abbott and Beto is you all need raises. So,
there you go.
Straight up. So just to let you know where we live, and I too, I definitely agree with my wife, because I have to. But second thing is, it is an extreme measure, right? Some of the things on it does work that we've asked for. So the speed bump thing, right? Well, we do want speed bumps too. Where we live on Thunderbird, I have a pointer, but on the very bottom when it turns, we're on the curb. So the kids will speed up to, I think we did do a traffic study, and you'll see the speed limit sign out there going toward Marshall. I think between 5 and 7 p.m., 50% or 47% of, not just the kids, all of us, we speed. So we did want speed bumps, but the thing with speed bumps is you have to have 90% of the neighbors who agree. And so because they're equal lots, if one neighbor doesn't agree, we don't get the speed bump. I would pay for them. I don't care. I take it out of my retirement fund to pay for the $5,500 speed bumps. But we have to have agreement unless there's some kind of overriding factor. I would have to look at the attorney to ask about that. But yes, I would love speed bumps. I apologize to my neighbors who are listening to this. Also, so the other thing too with the traffic, right? And you're right. To my neighbor who lives on River, it's not a lot of traffic that goes your way, but man, there's so much traffic on this side. And you're right, we picked the spot, but the almost fatality scared us, and so we asked for help. So there was a traffic done going out on Heidner, and we asked for a light there. I mean, not only for all of our protection, because if you leave outside of what is it? Chaparral, and oh my God, we put a light there. But some people don't agree about it, so whatever. But if you put a light there, it's safety for not only the students, but for us going in and out. Like, you want to put a light somewhere there. The distance between lights is like a mile, so you hear them racing all the time. It's about safety. I agree with both chiefs, right? So we just need to figure out a way to increase the thoroughfare and then reduce the speed in the neighborhood. I agree, it is an extreme measure. I don't really like shutting down the roads, but one of them was like, hey, put up some gates, so that the emergency crews can come through. Like, what can we do to reduce the speed and the issues with the safety and potential, and it is potential fatalities in the future, because she almost didn't wake up, y'all. She almost did not wake up. So Jackie's husband and my wife went out there, and they were first to the car, and I forget the young lady's name, but she was Fatima. Sorry. So she was, and it was just heartbreaking. And so it took a minute, even with all the open streets, for our response to get there, but she lived, and thank God. But we know it's going to happen again. We agree, safety, and this is a part of this
Thank you.
discussion.
I appreciate your comments, Mr. Simons. Thank you. All right, anyone else? Okay.
Can I
Yes.
already spoke, but can I say something in response to, whatever?
Well, I'll tell you what, I just don't want other people to come up and do two comments. So very briefly, because
just in
I
response
know.
to, I understand what everyone is saying about the accidents and,
But you need to speak into the microphone because
coming
you're
in and having
recording.
accidents. But your neighborhood, you need to address the council, not the audience.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Your neighborhood, their neighborhood is not unique to all the speeding, hitting poles, and it's happened in, everybody who is here in all our neighborhoods. It's not the only one. So I understand that it is scary to see that. Everyone has seen an accident happen like that. But as he said, shutting down the road because somebody was not following the law, everybody else who does follow the law cannot be penalized for that.
Okay. Very good. Thank you.
Thank
I appreciate your
Okay.
additional comment. All right. We did have one of our citizens last meeting bring up the idea, Dr. Caldera, of a school zone on Huebner. Did we look into that? Remember, that was an issue, and I thought it was a good issue. I just didn't know what the status of that was.
Yes, there is an area on Heegner near Balky that was designated as a school zone. You had a turnover of population at one point, and one of the public works directors, was not me, just eliminated it because they didn't have enough students crossing to warrant a crossing guard, and so that one just kind of went away, even though it's still on the books. So you could reintroduce a school zone there if you wanted to, but that's not going to take care of the concerns that we have in the Monte Robles Park neighborhood.
Yes, I certainly understand that. I just thought that was one of the hanging issues that we were looking into from the last meeting. I just want that addressed. Okay, so we're going to start on this side. Mr. Martinez, I'm going to let you go first. We'll go around the dais with your comments, please. Thank you.
Okay, one of the first things I've heard is one person got up and said that they just found out about this meeting last night. I urge everybody here to sign up for e-news. You will get an email every Friday that lists the different meetings, the different events, and the different things that are happening in Leon Valley. I also highly recommend that you come to our website. And it's going to be changed, but the website has got a lot of information on it. And then the third thing is a lot of the information is posted on Nextdoor. So, but I really urge everybody here to sign up for e-news. That's the best way to keep informed of what's going on in our city. The second is NISD has their police department. Maybe we should engage them in doing some patrolling between our police department and their police department. Issue tickets. And I think if we were to target, just like was mentioned, a lot of people run the stop signs. What if you just parked there for an hour in the morning and an hour after school and gave out a dozen or so tickets? Do you think that those kids are going to go to school the next day and say, hey, I got a ticket, and going down Thunderbird. You better watch it. So use that as a force multiplier. You know, if one kid gets a ticket, they're probably going to tell 10 of their friends, and they're going to spread it. So, you know, use that as a force multiplier to get the word out.
Okay.
That's what I have. Thank you.
Mr. Martinez. Mr. Stevens, you're next.
Yeah, so I wanted to thank you, everyone, for coming out. City of San Antonio,
Yes.
Northside, it's all the parents. It's valuable to hear from all the different sides. We had been informed kind of at the beginning of this, and now we know why the NISD was essentially unwilling to dialogue with us in depth about possible solutions because of some litigation. And so it was like pulling strings. Our staff, we knew that there's complaints, we knew there's concerns, and we want to talk to Northside about it, but we can't talk to Northside about it. And so having Northside here is just goes to show that now I guess the communication is more open than it was in the past, at least. And so I think that my colleagues that brought this issue up, their intent was to do what the citizens told them that they'd like to see done, which is address these specific traffic issues that are ongoing in Monte Robles. I think now, there's been nothing determined up until this point. We're still dialoguing because we're trying to troubleshoot and possible solutions. I think now the council knows what is not a possible solution, just based on fiscal impacts and analysis and from fire and police and all of that. So, however, we still want to try to do something to calm. I personally like the idea of the school zone on Hebrew Road. I think that may be something we really want to look at implementing. I frequently, several days a week, I go towards Patton F Middle School, and I go all the way up to Callahan usually. So Patton F Middle School is probably a good 3/4 of a mile maybe from Callahan, in the neighborhoods that pour out onto Callahan, and specifically it's like Clearview, Inspiration. So this is inside the city of San Antonio, but the city of San Antonio has implemented a school zone at 20 miles per hour that's blinking, at certain times of the day, and it's big overhead, blinking yellow lights. And I think that if we did something like that, it would enable the cars that are backed up in Monte Robles, it would enable them the opportunity to turn out, because the cars are going 20 miles per hour. And especially if we, with a heavy hand enforce that 20 miles per hour speed limit on that stretch of Huebner, it would make it a lot easier for the cars to pour out, especially in the afternoons, which is what I hear the problem is. And that would solve, or at least possibly solve, one of the problems that regarding like the traffic congestion build up in the afternoon. So I think that we still need to take a close look at this and kind of weigh out the pros and cons. Again, it's very valuable to hear all of the feedback, which I think we were only hearing from a handful of citizens at the very beginning, but this is the process that we go through with all the issues. So
that's right. Thank you, Mr. Stevens. I appreciate those comments. Yes, Mr. Hefner, what would you like to say?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. First and foremost, I'd like to thank everybody who's come out tonight. I really love seeing a full chamber. It means we have engaged citizens. So really do appreciate everybody taking time out of their busy schedules and their evenings to come talk with us. I think Ms. Chumley hit on it, very early on in her comments. A lot of the concerns surrounding this issue is about miscommunication. Part of it is about what can be communicated and what can't. We fortunately have the Texas Open Meetings Act, and we have to conduct these conversations in public. And so that's where a lot of this comes from. Ms. Chumley, I'm gonna look to you to just give me a thumbs up, thumbs down. I understand you can't speak to things that you may or may not have under litigation. I have some information, but I also don't want to frustrate your efforts. So
I really can,
okay.
Jed.
Thank you.
I'm Mr. Hefner.
No, thank you.
The one thing I just want to say though,
Ms. Chumley, we are recording, so
I'm
you'll have to
sorry.
be at the dais, not dais.
Just real quick, I'm sorry, I can't speak for what's under litigation, but I do want to say that what you saw is not the plans that we have, and I think that's where we really need to have the city engage with our conversations on what we do with that. Once our litigation is completed, I think that we will be able to offer some suggestions that will help this neighborhood once we're at that point. And I apologize, but all of y'all know as well.
Yeah.
City attorneys are telling me that. So
Can you have to wait until the litigation's over with before you can send us the plan, or can you send us the updated plan now?
let me talk to our staff and talk to our attorneys and see where we are on that.
That'd be great.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay,
Thank
go
you,
ahead.
Ms. Shelley.
Mr. Hefner.
And I won't frustrate their efforts by sharing that. If somebody has a question about that, you can come talk to me offline. But what I will say is throughout this entire process, the plan that you guys saw up there, I first saw it back in March in a meeting that Ms. Moritz held here at City Hall with representatives of Northside. I saw it as an interim plan, not as a final plan by any means, given some of the other things that are going on. And so again, miscommunication. I think the mayor said in the beginning of her comments that at our last meeting on August 2nd on this topic, that I made a proposal to close the street. Mayor, that's miscommunication. What we in fact did was we presented 7 options. So if you want to go back to the August 2nd meeting, take a look at the meeting packet.
16th.
Okay, 16th was originally scheduled for the second meeting. And so at that meeting, we discussed 7 different options that had originated in multiple conversations with citizens, people in the neighborhood. Yes, Mr. Bradshaw and I live in Monte Robles Park, but these concerns were raised by members of that community and brought to us as their elected representatives. And so I have always tried to endeavor to take off my citizen hat and put on my representative hat. And to those in the audience who are opposed to closing the roads, I represent you just as much as I represent every citizen in Monte Robles Park. And so I forget who said it, but I'm glad that we've had the opportunity to put our ears on and listen and hear different perspectives. To that end, I think as Mr. Stevens mentioned, there are a number of the proposals that we considered on August 16th that were cost prohibitive. Some of the updates out of that conversation, we gave direction to staff. Staff came back, gave us more information based on what they found in terms of feasibility. That's eliminated other options in terms of the cost effectiveness and feasibility. So I think renewed conversations are very important. I will say, and whether it was due to litigation or not, over the last 6 to 8 months, the level of communication with Northside has been very low. So we would love to see that increase. One of the kind of drivers out of that conversation on the 16th was, what can we do as a city to bring Northside to the table, to bring City of San Antonio to the table to discuss this issue? And so that's really what we're hoping to do. I don't by any means pretend that where we are right now is the final where we will end up. But I do think it's an important conversation to have, and there's some real concerns. For the gentleman from San Antonio, the one question I had on what you mentioned about the light is that light able to be manually controlled? I think about in terms of like, if you go to a Spurs game and you have a high peak time, the 15 minutes after a Spurs game, you've got an officer there with a button that's letting traffic go through because the other phase of the light isn't meeting that traffic flow. And I think Northside experiences that at very specific peak times, specifically at that intersection of Eckerd and Bluebird.
Yes, Mr. George, please. Yeah.
Yes, I mean typically we do reserve for a high intensity events either at a high school or at a Spurs game where the police can manually control. Typically we like to let the light make the right decision, I guess, from just a safety aspect, I guess an expectancy of the light. In particular on Eckerd Road, it's a major arterial that goes through there. All the lights are kind of in sync with each other. And so just because one light's green, if one light were to remain green longer, the light that's 1,000 feet down the way, if it's not green, traffic will just back up. And so it can be used in this situation. I really don't, just knowing that the proximate, there's a light south of there, and just how close that light is, it may not work as good. But yeah, we definitely can, if we have a very sophisticated light system there, we can make adjustments to help better serve traffic aids.
My gut feeling is that if we look at those specific times, and we have done traffic studies both at the intersection of Bluebird and Eckert. That traffic study was done by Northside, and they shared that data with us. City of Leon Valley did a traffic study at the intersection of Chaparral and Heidner, the other side of the Monty Robles neighborhood, and we provided that. That's in the data from that is in the August 16th presentation. If you want to go check that out in our packet, which is on our website. So appreciate that. I think another piece of the complexity of this issue is that we have 3 municipal bodies all kind of intertwined. So just for those in the audience who maybe aren't aware of this, Eckert Road is owned by the city of San Antonio. So all of the lights that are timed along Eckert Road are owned by the city of San Antonio, and they go through downtown offices that are much larger than the city of Leon Valley. Northside owns their school, but for those that don't know, in the Northside School District, Marshall is unique in that Robin Lane, Lobo Lane, and Bluebird, those 3 roads are public roads owned by the city of Leon Valley that separate their school from their parking lot. And they are the only school in Northside, to my knowledge, so Northside folks, you guys correct me if I'm wrong, but they are the only school in Northside, to my knowledge, that has that situation. Every other school owns the roads in between their school and their parking lot. And so that creates a challenge, right? If there are accidents, if there are calls that need to be made, our Leon Valley Police Department is often responding to those calls on a regular basis. And I see shaking head to Shelly. I'm sure that Chief Gonzalez would love to get with your police officers and sort that out. But again, clear dialogue, like partnership in this shared space that affects all of us, I think is key. I apologize, I'm gonna go to my notes because I had a couple of other items. There has been conversation around law enforcement in terms of where they engage. I know that we see Northside police officers throughout that neighborhood often, through Monty Robles, watching for kids that are truant, watching for other behavior that's been an issue. I know that we've had interactions with those police officers. So I think that that's a positive thing. The response that we've gotten, at least formally through our city manager, has been that the Northside School District officers are there for issues on campus and are not there for traffic control. And so totally understand that. However, the traffic is the issue and the thing causing the problem. And I think there's resources that need to be brought to bear there. And the challenge that we have, and I believe it was Mr. Bowl that brought the point up, can we put a dedicated officer in Monty Robles Park to ticket students running the red light at Thunderbird, or the stop sign at Thunderbird and Stebbins? Chief Gonzalez will correct me if I'm off on this, but I think at any given time, we probably have 3 officers on patrol at a time. And so that's the limit of our capacity and our staffing and what we have. And so we have a 3.5 square mile city that we have to provide law enforcement safety services for, not just this one neighborhood. And so I'm also going to speak to my neighbors in Monty Robles Park. That's something that they're well aware of. And so that has been a challenge that this body had to consider as we considered funding levels, right? Do we fund additional police officers? But it would be difficult to say that this neighborhood would be the top priority if we were to add another officer, given our other concerns in our city. I heard the statement that the school's been there for 72 years. How long has it been active as a magnet school? 2 years since it opened? Is that correct?
It's 2 years. That's 2 years.
So it sounds like from the timeline that the mayor brought up, it sounds like those things correspond. That the issues that the neighbors have seen has increased during the time that the magnet school's been there. Now, maybe that was an aspect related to the construction. I believe now most of the construction is complete in that area. Maybe not.
Do you want some data on?
Would love data. Love data.
So actually, we have less students at Marshall than we have over an extended period of time. We actually had over 3,000 students at Marshall. And so we have approximately 500 kids that have come in on the LMS. It's our law medical magnet, and the majority of those are bused. They don't drive, so they really aren't contributing. This actually, I'm thinking that maybe the construction piece may have made it more difficult, but the actual population at Marshall right now, the magnet school really is not contributing to this. And the one thing to consider from another angle is that having a magnet school at Marshall actually brings up the property values because of the desirability of Marshall High School now as well. So I mean, it's all those ripple things that we had talked about, but actually the number that we have at Marshall now is not the most that we have had.
What is the current
about
population?
2,676.
Okay.
Yeah, 2,600. Where we were well over 3,000 for an extended period of time.
All right, great, thank you.
Thank you. I absolutely love data, Ms. Shumley, so you're speaking my love language right here. And so the only other point I'll make is, there's a desire from this side, from Leon Valley, that we have a good relationship with both Northside and the city of San Antonio, but that our citizens are considered. And the thing that I've repeatedly heard from citizens is that they don't feel heard. They don't feel acknowledged or recognized. And let's face it, Leon Valley, we're David. Like we had two 500-pound gorillas in the room with us between Northside and San Antonio. So, we do our best to advocate on behalf of our citizens in a way that is thoughtful and responsible, and that we can listen to all the concerns before making a decision. And so I really appreciate that you guys have come to open that dialogue.
Thank you, thank you very much. All right, Mr. Roscoe, you're next.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you all of you for showing up. When I walked out, I saw all of you and said, "This is great. This is fantastic." My daughter graduated 22 years ago from Marshall as well, and in 1995, when I was building in Pomona Place, I come from Apple Green, and there used to be a lights for to go, slow down to 20 school zone. I said, "What the heck is that? Marshall's about a mile away from here. What the heck?" And I didn't like that, but that was just the nature of the beast, and that's something that I had to accept. But smartly enough, what's happening, people coming down from Marshall towards Leon Valley, is slow them down, giving the kids an opportunity to get out from Thunderbird and New Lane. It slows us down, and I thought that was great. When I moved in '96, and I was taking my daughter to school there in Marshall. Monte Robles, I honestly think, and not against any other neighborhood in Leon Valley, but I think Monte Robles is one of the most fantastic places to live at. It's the pristine wilderness that you guys have there. And I can't tell you what I'm going to vote for, but I can tell you what I'm not going to vote for. I'm not going to block any streets. I don't know what to block any streets or put any fences there. The look that Monte Robles has is amazing. I love that place. And many times my wife we take a little shortcut to go through there. The deer that you have there, and there's other options that we can go and do this. I actually had an opportunity to speak to some of the kids. They're in Thunderbird and going down. And one of the things that I indicated, I had mentioned before in a council meeting, that it just takes them too long to get out of that parking lot right there in Eckerd. And I had suggested the light scenario. And I need to know if we do get to control the light right there in Eckerd as you coming out, can we control the other lights as well that's in front of that neighborhood by the softball place area and by Abe Lincoln? We can control it to make it all work out. Just as Councilor Hefner had indicated that the Spurs, they didn't only control that one light that comes out of the arena, but they control all the other lights all the way to the highway. Is that something doable as well?
In a situation like that, we do have specialized plans that run where the lights do run a coordinated sequence. It's not necessarily controlled by an officer, but at a certain time, the lights will change so that their operation. During the day right now, the light right there in front of the one at Eckerd and Bluebird, it does do a specialized sequence. I believe it starts at 8:20 and it goes to somewhere a little bit after 9. So most of our signals in the city of San Antonio typically only do about 3 different things. But a lot of our signals in front of schools, we do have a specialized tailored plan to increase the amount of time that for exiting traffic. So we are increasing the amount of time for exiting traffic from Bluebird. But yes, an idea of where not only does that light change, but do the lights adjacent to it also change, it is definitely a possibility to handle that increased load of traffic exiting.
Very good, thank you, sir. I have a talking about the kids that drive really quick and they go by that Thunderbird real quick. I have a retirement job, a fun retirement job, and I do a lot of driving for a dealership, the best dealership in San Antonio, by the way. And that I see in different neighborhoods and different school zones that I drive through is horrendous. So it's just not Marshall High School. The kids everywhere, and what really puzzles me more that it's not the kids, it's mostly the adults that break the laws there at the school zones. And I sometimes wish that I could do something about it, stop them and do like Barney Five, do people's arrest or and then the point, I'm not gonna go on, but I look forward to working with all of you to find a solution to make this happen, not only for the citizens in Monterey, which is a fantastic place, but everybody around our area in Leon Valley. Thank you for coming over.
Thank you, Mr. Roscoe. Mr. Bradshaw.
Thank you, Mayor. And as been said by the rest of the council, thank you all for coming out and showing your concern about this topic. I'd like to set a few things straight. And actually, Jessica, thank you for pointing out it wasn't my idea or Councilor Hefner's idea to say let's close the streets. It was after the accident that somebody was severely hurt in front of the sign's house. They graciously invited neighbors over around and said, let's talk about the concerns. And there was like kind of a brainstorming session talking about the issues. What are they? Traffic, speed, garbage, they're just things that would be annoying to anybody in their neighborhoods. And again, for the record, nobody liked my idea. I was going to quit my day job, sacrifice, and set up a toll booth in front of my house. Nobody liked it. But I think there is, when we talk about all these options and some of them obviously because of cost and, not meeting the needs of the citizens are not feasible. Closing the streets not feasible. But I think the solution is not a one size like, oh, here it is, that's it, that's a silver bullet. It's going to be a combination of things, and that's where I think we need to get together with Northside, San Antonio, and ourselves and the citizens and see what works. And I think some ideas that have been brought up tonight are good ideas. First, seeking the lights and making sure that the accurate signal is timed right. You did say something about a double loop sensor. Can you explain that real quick? How does that work?
So actually, the type of sensors is a very old school sensor. Basically, it's loop wire in the pavement that reads a magnetic signal, I guess, to know a vehicle's there. It's the best surefire, true way to know if a vehicle's there. You'll see around town we have video cameras that kind of look for pixel changes, but the sun will glare it, the lens will. But the road loops that you have out there, as I was watching traffic on last Friday, they operate phenomenally, and they do exactly what we programmed it to do. Unfortunately, we needed to make some adjustments to it. We made some adjustments, like I said today, to increase the amount of time that the sensors are, before it resets itself. It was set to a lower standard. We increased it that way. That vehicle that maybe was slowing down as they went around the curve, can now more easily not let the sensor reset itself. And so, but yeah, so the two loop detectors are some of the best detection systems that we have, even though it's a really old system.
Great, thank you. So yeah, hopefully that change will help, and then also the idea Councilor Stevens brought up about the school zone on Huebner. I think that would help for people to get out, to be able to turn, and cars slow down, because I think that corner is already kind of dangerous, even when it's not school hours. Trying to get out there, cars are flying down Huebner, so maybe a flashing yellow school zone sign would slow some people down and give people more opportunity to get out. I know on my way to work in the morning, I actually turned left, and it's pretty busy coming towards me, but because there's a school zone, the cars slow down and I'm able to turn left, or normally I might not be able to. And then also the crosswalk there at Huebner with that light, it's been brought up before about kids trying to cross to go to Marshall riding bikes, and it's pretty dangerous to try to ride a bike there. So I think all those things together would help. Again, thank you for everybody for coming out.
All righty, thank you, I appreciate that. Yes, I just wanted to reiterate all of our appreciation for y'all being here this evening. And I liked all the options, Councilor Bradshaw, that you were just mentioning. I was writing them down. I was coming back from downtown courthouse today, and they had a interesting traffic calming measure. Instead of a hump, it was a dip. And I thought, maybe that's what we need over there at Marty Robles, a big, several dips. I don't know. But I mean, we just got to think outside the box. And I want to thank Mr. Georges for being here tonight. You've answered a lot of questions. And I think that's part of the solution is to increase that light or coordinate them like you were talking about. But the options of closing the road, as we can all see, are very, very costly. And I don't think that they're, I personally don't think we can afford it as a city. But tonight, the purpose of our meeting was to brief the citizens and city council on the request to close roads in Monty Robles Park to mitigate traffic from John Marshall High School. So we did talk about closing the roads on the 16th, and then tonight we got the cost of what that would be, and that's what I think is now unrealistic. But I love the recommendation that our staff has suggested, and I fully support it, and that's to investigate alternative methods of traffic calming in the neighborhood and to work with Northside to determine acceptable solutions. So what's our next step? I mean, do we have a joint meeting? Have we researched what other schools do? I mean, we're not the only one, like several of you said. I mean, there's multiple high schools across the county. Can we research and see what other schools do? But the main thing is that we need to show respect and listen to one another and work together to come up with a common solution that's win-win for all of us. And I think we're all committed to doing that. I really do. And so I'm not sure what our next steps are, but if you have, Ms. Chumley, I think you and I talked last week about having a joint meeting between all of the entities. I'm not sure if that's what you're
that's what I would, one comment I do want to make is that, right now, all law enforcement agencies around here are short-staffed. But I do think the traffic calming is definitely a law enforcement issue. And I think that we need to keep that in mind as well. My recommendation is that we have a joint meeting and come up with what we can and cannot do. I think that would be the best idea for the next step. And then I did wanna just ask, in the future, if you feel that you are not getting a response from Northside, or you have concerns, you know, we have a board of 7 and our team of 8 with our superintendent. Please reach out to us, email, call, come to a board meeting and let us know that there is an issue. I really hated to hear that we weren't communicating, because that's just not what we've done historically. So if that happens again, I'm gonna bring some of my cards tomorrow up here for you so that you have them. Please feel free to reach out to me or to any of the other board members at any time if an issue like this arises again. Mayor, what my recommendation would be is for me to talk to our Northside staff, have them get with your city manager, and then let's find a date that will accommodate the majority of us to be able to be there.
You bet. That'd be great.
Thank you.
Alrighty, thank you. Really appreciate it. All right. Any more? Okay, Mr. Martinez, we'll try to get on with the rest. Oh, yes, we haven't heard from you, Dr. Caldera.
So
Yes, go
I
ahead.
just want to make it perfectly clear, Northside, Leon Valley, and the city of San Antonio has been meeting very regularly over.
That's what the
traffic,
timeline says,
and
yeah.
we meet regularly. We have been working well together.
Mhm.
Where the disconnect happened is we were looking for a joint meeting for the public to be able to come out and express their concerns to Northside and to the city of Leon Valley. That's the joint meeting we were trying to get accomplished that we were unable to have happen. And so to say that we haven't been working well together is another miscommunication, because your staff has been great. We've worked really well together with the engineers, our engineers. We've been getting together regularly on the plans. We knew about certain aspects of what was going on. And so I also don't want to, disable what was going on with Northside and giving all the details up here as well. And so we were kind of very generic in those kinds of responses, but where the disconnect was that joint meeting with what is happening now, is what we were asking to happen for back in May. And so I just want to make that clear, because your staff has been great, and San Antonio's been great. They've been part of those discussions, as well as the city. So I just wanted
Appreciate
to
the clarification. Thank you, Dr. Caldera. And then also, if you could give us your updated plan, traffic plan, I think we need that as well. So whenever you can release it to us. Okay, Mr. Martinez and Mr. Stevens.
Please, this is more for Mrs. Chumley. Would it be possible for you, Northside, and City Council to meet in executive session? That way we can talk some of these details in private.
Mr. Martinez will have to open meetings. We'll direct what we can and can't do.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yes, Mr. Stevens.
Yeah, so I was just gonna propose, I am completely in favor of a joint meeting and trying to really come to more solutions, but I think in the meantime, there is a solution that we don't need, Northside or, City of San Antonio for, and that's, implementing the school zone that we use on Even Road back, so I'd like to, propose that we bring that back for whatever the council needs to do to fund, signage and stuff like that, and to make that a reality.
We could pay for that out of red light camera money, right?
You could do that, or we could pay for it just out of public works for any fiscal year, so we have a little pot of money.
That's right, you're starting a new fiscal year.
The ordinance has already been passed, we don't have to do any kind of, that kind of legislation, so it's just be a matter of getting a contractor to put it in.
Yeah, I think that's something we can do now. Thank you for that, Mr. Stevens. Yes. Mr. Hefner.
In terms of actions, I think another action I think would be helpful is if we can get City of San Antonio to provide our staff with the specific timing that currently is, and then if there are updates to that timing, just keeping us informed.
Oh, okay.
And I wouldn't say just in the morning either. Like, I think it's important to look at, and we have some data that I'm happy to share, other energy share with you, around what was at the Bluebird as of, I think, last September. And so based on that, I think 3 peak times, morning, noon, and night, are school commencing, school releasing, and lunch. One last question I'll throw out there is something that may or may not have been brought up to Northside, but something to consider and something that was brought up by our citizens is Is it factual that Marshall has an open campus for lunch? Students are allowed to leave for lunch? Or is there what kinds of considerations should we think about if we were to ask you to change that policy? I just got to voice what people are
That's certainly
Think
something
outside the box.
that we should discuss.
Okay, that sounds great. All righty, well, I think we've had a wonderful discussion. Thank you all very much for being here. Mr. Georges, thank you again for your expertise. And thank you, Chief Naughton and Chief Gonzalez as well, Dr. Caldera, and then Northside Independent School District. Thank you so much for being here. And we will move on then to the next agenda item. Thank you. If anybody wants to leave, you all can go ahead and leave now. I know you don't want to listen to our bit, but if you do, we'd love for you to stay. You know that. All right. Thank y'all. Have a good one.
I'm hearing that he's
All righty. Bye-bye. Yes. Thank y'all very much. I know. Melissa, good to see you, and thank you for being here.
Yes. Yes, Alex, thank you.
All right, Mr. Yarnell, are you ready? You're next up. 6.3.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, well, we're just gonna let everybody kind of clear the room, clear the chamber. Thank you, Ms. Chumley. We appreciate you being here. Good to see you, neighbor. Okay. Yeah, she lives on First Street. Okay, here we go. Thank y'all. Agenda item number 6.3, presentation of the Capital Facilities Oversight Committee final report, and we have Olin Yarnell, the chair, here this evening to present. Good evening and welcome.
I do have an update. We have some recommendations that are not in this report. There's some roads we're going to close.
Oh. Okay.
Probably we shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Good evening.
As the chair of the Oversight Committee, Capital Facilities Oversight Committee, I'd like to thank the members, present members and former members for dedicating their time to produce this document. We did a lot of whittling to come down with these recommendations. And also I'd like to bring up a special thank you to Mr. Johnson for taking on the task of compiling all those votes into a presentation that we can understand. We're here this evening for the report, the final report of the committee. Our last meeting was on the 22nd. I guess officially we're sunsetting, right? That's up to you all. Okay. So Ms. Morris will be making the presentation. And if you have any questions of the committee, I'll be glad to answer.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. And thank you for your leadership, Mr. Yarnell. You've done a great job. And your committee members. Okay, Ms. Morris, if you'd like to continue.
Okay, so the purpose is to give the City Council the Capital Facilities Oversight Committee's final report on the recommendations for the renovation, remodel, and or demolition of certain city facilities, and to consider sunsetting the committee. The group was created in 2021, and they were to evaluate and make recommendations for certain city facilities in order to conform to ADA requirements, and to bring them up to date in other ways as well. They were also to provide recommendations on funding for these types of projects. The facilities included public works, both of the community pools, library annex, and Rainier Ridge Park restroom. The recommendations in the report take into consideration the citizens' bond survey results. So the committee recommends a new public works and administrative building be constructed and the existing building to be modified to accommodate equipment. Of the 634 survey respondents, 457 were in favor of doing so. The funds would have come from a general obligation bond once the interest rates have returned to a lower amount and or at the city council's discretion. The Forest Oaks pool, I'm glad I'm not y'all. Dead split between these two pools. And so the survey, to keep the pool and replace the other pool with a recreational facility was 260 or 51.1. If you so choose, the committee recommends demolishing the building, replacing it with a prefabricated building, correct the patio areas for compliance, then replace the baby pool with a little splash pad and replaster the pool. Sylvia Valley Community Pool, 48.9%. And same thing, if you so chose, you could demolish the existing building, replace it with a prefab building, correct the patio and parking areas, replace the baby pool with a splash pad, and replaster the pool. In any case, this pool needs to be replastered before we open for next summer.
And what does that cost? Like, we've done it before.
It
About
needs
$50,000?
Well, this one not only needs a replastering, but it has a lot of plumbing problems as well. There's a couple of the skimmers that don't pull, so you're probably looking at about $80,000.
$80,000, okay, thank you.
The library annex, the committee recommends the building be demolished and a new building be built over where our current record storage building is, near the library. The survey indicated that 326 or 53% are in favor of this. The committee would like to name it the Carol Poss Archive and Education Center. They also recommend funding this with a bond and with assistance from the Board of Trustees and or a grant. They've given this a high priority. The park restrooms were remanded back to the Park Commission, and they recommend that we construct these using Texas Parks and Wildlife funds through a grant with them. The ordinance creating the committee gives the city council the option to sunset the committee once their duties have been completed. The city council now has their recommendations and y'all will make the funding decisions for these projects, including the timeline. The committee doesn't really have a reason to meet until the funding decisions have been made and at the discretion of the council. The committee may be reactivated at any time. And that's all I have.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Are there any questions for Ms. Morse or Mr. Yarnell on this? Yes, Councilor Bradshaw.
Sorry.
That's okay.
I just want to say thanks for all the work you've done, Mr. Yarnell, and the rest of the committee. You know, it was a lot of meetings, a lot of talk of what the community wants. And then the only other thing that, talking about removing the annex and moving it over to where near the library now. Was there any discussion about what happened to that property where the annex is?
Say again, please.
The corner where the annex is currently?
Yes.
What would happen to that corner?
That would become a landscaping area.
It's like a little city
Yes.
park. Okay.
Yes.
So,
That's what it was before that library building was put
there.
there. It was just for unknown reasons. I've lived here since 1971. And that corner was just left open for unknown reasons. And it was viewed as, an excellent location to put our library back when it was placed.
Because that was the library originally, is that correct?
That's the library. That library building came from the Ray Ellison home building.
Yeah, for that subdivision, and they
Over
donated it to the
They
city.
donated it to the city.
Yes, and then we turned it into a library.
It was, shall we say, pretty well used when we got it. And we used it considerably.
And I don't know how many years it was the library. I mean, I took my kids there, and it's really tiny. But it was well used, and Joyce Trent was the librarian, and she did a great job.
It was quite a thing when we got to
It
the
was.
library.
We loved it.
The library board did a real good service to the community.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Well, I would just add that, at our last bond, when we renovated City Hall and Fire Station.
2012?
2012, so we had we had the two committees, and so when and if, I like what you said there, Ms. Mortz, that it would be reinstituted if we go out for a bond, and we would need to have an oversight committee, because I believe you served on both of those committees, right? So that's, on how we spend the money in the bond if we were able to pass a bond, which we were able to in 2012. So anyway, but thank you for yours and the committee's leadership on that. And I wasn't a member of the committee, but I think I attended
You attend every meeting.
almost every meeting, but
Yes.
one, I think. So I just really.
We started our meetings in June of 21 and had them almost monthly, except for a few exceptions.
Yeah.
Until the last one was on the 22nd. If there's any way that you could work out a plan to replace the public works facility prior to the rest of these projects, it really needs to take care of. Back on the 2012 bond issue, it was discussed that these facilities that we have now, the fire and the police and the city hall, would be taken care of at that time. And the public works building would be taken care of in the future within a few years. Well, now we're 10 years down the road, and they really do need to be taken care of probably prior to the rest of these things. And as far as the library annex, I was following Mrs. Lloyd's suggestion, recognizing Mrs. Poss and changing the name to the Carol Poss Archive Educational Center. And I envision an open meeting area over there by the conference center where you could have children come over from the library for classes, archive classes and things like that.
Okay.
So if we could do that, it'd be great.
All right. Well, thank you very much for those suggestions. Okay. Thank you again. We appreciate it. Have a good one. All right. Moving then to agenda item number 6.4, presentation, discussion, and possible action on annual Christmas tree lighting event. And we have Crystal Miranda, our community relations director, here this evening to present. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Council.
You bet.
All right, we're here to discuss the Christmas tree lighting event. Present some options to you guys, some background before COVID. You've had the carolers, the musicians' performances, elementary performances as well with city staff and sponsored booths in 2021. Pretty much all the same, except you had the addition of the Beethoven concert band at the community center.
Can I just add something? I thought one year during COVID we had a drive-through event.
2020.
2020? Oh, was it? Before. Okay.
So I'm sorry, I did before COVID.
Oh, that's okay. And then right after COVID, or during COVID, we had the
drive-through.
Okay. I just knew we did some drive-through for Halloween and for Christmas. Okay, great. Thank you.
And so some background. Each year, city staff has added more lighting and displays. Currently, you're at max capacity for electrical usage at that site. The fiscal impact in previous years is $2,800. Some concerns I have with that, or that we have with staff, is that the $2,800 that has been used did not consider things such as the Public Works Department getting a lift to put the lights on the canopy and the trees, staff hours that it took. It takes 6 crewmen an entire month to do all the lighting. The man lift alone for the rental of that is over $6,500. We do need more electricity. Last year, it was told that the voltage was low, so all the lighting, they are LED, but it was a dimmer in some parts of the park. So it tells you it's weakening. You need to add quads, you need to add electrical use. And then your decorations cost every year, and replacing the light bulbs that break on that string of lights. Oops, sorry about that. Option 1 presenting is add a series of events leading up to the Christmas tree lighting. So you already have a breakfast with Santa on Saturday, December 3rd. Beethoven concert has expressed their interest and their availability for Sunday, December 4th. Maybe adding December 4th a concert with Coco, and then December 5th you have your Christmas tree lighting event. Option number 2, you keep all the concerts performances on Monday, December 5th. Have all performances held outdoors to allow no crowding. Everyone can enjoy the lighting and the music at the same time. Rent a stage or just utilize the parkland there. Option 3, extend the length of the event to accommodate performances at the community center. Or your, discretion. Concerns. The town hall meeting, the public discussed wanting more lighting or adding to this event. In order to add more electrical, you need either add transformer, full street lights, or more quads. To add more displays, we can either make the tree taller, but I just found out today that those are on back order, so we couldn't make the tree taller. Extend the tunnel. Public Works crew are very handy. They actually built that tunnel. We could have them extend it a little bit more, and that was a great attraction where the lights actually were in sync. They synchronized. Running attraction, large display, snow globe, angel wings for like Instagram photos, things like that. Continued. You add a community center type contest, so maybe we add a Christmas tree decorating contest with staff, booths, business booths. Something I did in Seguin for our Christmas event was we had 12 Christmas trees. Non-profit organizations and businesses would decorate a Christmas tree, and we'd have a first, second, third honorable mention. Another thing that is common to do in the Christmas is a cocoa station contest. Have city staff, council, mayor, or organizations, nonprofits have a cocoa contest. Add snow rink, snow ice skating rink, right? That's kind of expensive, but it's an option if you want to have a Christmas Wonderland theme or add to this event, have a snow station. And of course, recommendations are up to you guys. Questions?
So I had a question. So did the lift for decorating or putting up the lights, was that just that $6,400 or $6,500 just paid for out of Public Works budget?
It has been paid out of Public Works in the past.
Okay,
Because
this is the first time I've heard of that.
Right, and that was a concern I have, is that the 2,800 isn't a realistic of what it takes to put this event on for the public. So I want to be as transparent as possible with you. No surprises. This event does actually cost more than $2,800.
Okay, I was curious about that. And then, of course, the staff time. I mean, they spend a lot of time putting up those lights.
Yeah.
Okay, yes, Mr. Martinez.
I highly recommend we move forward with this project. It's highly regarded around the city, San Antonio, as you need to come to the Leon Valley and drive through the event. And last year I saw cars. Every night that I drove by there, I would see cars that drive around there and take a look, or stop and walk around the park and look at the lights. So that's something that, we have to give back to the community. And we're a little tiny part of San Antonio. And to have that kind of recognition from San Antonio, for people come from all over to look at our little events. 4th of July is a big event for us, and people from all over come too. So, that's how we give back to the community. And this is a very good way to say thank you to the community for our efforts.
So, just so we're clear, I'm just trying to get direction.
Exactly.
Do you want to add to this event? Do you want to add the Beethoven band the Monday night because their Christmas lights won't happen until the day after. They've expressed interest in holding a concert. They like to come and hold a concert. We don't get a very big turnout for them. We get about a handful of people. Last year they were added on to the Christmas tree lighting event, and so they took over the community center, and we had Northside in the conference center, and Northside really needs to be in the community center, but the Beethoven band doesn't want to be in the conference center, and they don't really want to be outside either. And so, and the school wants to be inside the community center. So if we're going to continue to have Beethoven band for the handful of people, then we need to have it on a separate day. And so if y'all are okay with that, then they need to do a concert the 4th, that Monday before.
Yeah.
If that's something y'all want to do.
I think that was a good idea to have the weekend, and then you advertise it all as a package, and maybe we'll get more
A lot of cities do a
participation.
series.
Yes, Mr. Bradshaw.
So yeah, I agree, people love the event.
Mhm.
Do we have a cost? I was just wondering if, you said expensive for the ice
It's gonna
skating.
be, ice skating, no.
Yeah, come on.
Oh,
You
yes,
know
I
I'm gonna
do.
ask about the ice skating.
You've been asking for ice skating for
13,000.
years.
13,000.
Because the company that I got the quote from, we're gonna need to house them and feed them, so
Is that
it's
the one that's in the
hotel,
little
lodging.
postcard, or is that something
Yeah,
else?
yeah, that postcard.
I think Eric Motto will donate the money.
I'm thinking you.
Okay, that's.
And that's a 30 by 20.
But another thing, and I know, I have time, but I did think about, maybe talk about vendors and stuff, little booths where people could come and sell Christmas type
Oh,
things,
crafts and stuff, yeah.
I was just in Helotes this weekend, I think Dr. Stevens was there too, by chance, and they have on the first Saturday of every month.
they're
They have
market
a
days.
farmer's market, and I didn't see any fruits and vegetables, but it was just all kinds of crafts and stuff for
We used to
sale.
have one here.
So yeah, and it was, I would think you could go and get these vendors and say, hey, do you have any Christmas stuff, you wanna come to, Valley and do that, and charge them, I don't know how much per booth or something, and help.
Well, you could do something like that on the Sunday. I'm just trying to get like what y'all wanna do.
Yeah, so
Do you know what I
for
mean?
on that sense, I think we either do it all together on the Christmas tree lighting, and you have it in the conference center. Nobody's wanna be outside if it's cold for that long. And I think we have John Marshall first and all the kids singing, and then you do Beethoven band orchestra afterwards, and people that might stay for it, so know it's next. But
At the community center?
yeah, community center, so you do it.
So then extend the length of the.
And extend the length. That's
So
what I
you're
would
gonna go probably well into
night.
10.
See, it's a school night too.
So Northside
Yeah.
always goes first, they would go first, and it happened last time, Northside went first in the conference center and the Beethoven band played secondary in the community center. It's just the put up and the takedown is
That's gonna be timely.
it's,
Yeah.
is a little bit timely. Again, if you hold a Sunday event, you'll be paying for overtime, staff will have to be there for overtime as well for the Beethoven band. If you extend the Sunday, if you add booths and make it an event in itself, you're gonna really have overtime, so you gotta set up booths, you gotta do takedown, and you're looking at another small type of event. So just kind of wanna bring that to your attention before you make a decision.
And is this enough time for that to plan and get
The
vendors?
Beethoven band concert, yes, I mean,
Yeah, I
to
know
get
the Beethoven band,
to
but
the vendors and all
Make
of
a
that,
vendors thing.
Yeah.
you're coming in very, very too close.
Because a lot of people already have commitments.
That's correct.
Yeah. Okay. Who else? Mr. Orozco, I'm sorry, you were
I
next.
just have a question. I like Brashel's idea. We had it one night. But and Crystal, Victoria, new in your hands. You're doing a fantastic job as an events coordinator, and I thank you so much for that. I just wanted to ask, are we gonna be like Lowe's, Walmart now, and skip Halloween, Thanksgiving,
Straight to Christmas.
I know a couple of years ago, I guess because of COVID, we had a drive-through Halloween thing. Was that?
We didn't do it last year.
No.
We only did it one time. It costs money. Again, you're adding another event, you're adding overtime for staff. It costs money to get the candy and all of that. And because I think that year they weren't doing door-to-door trick-or-treat, it became part of no door-to-door to stop the spread of COVID. And so we did the drive-through trick-or-treat and we handed bags through the window. Last year we went back to, because, not that COVID was over, but the restrictions on going door-to-door. Halloween was back in session, and we didn't do that. But we normally have the big event at the library. Library always holds a Halloween event. Police and fire departments normally hand out candy that night, and so we do have those things going on.
So October 29th, you have the Halloween party at the library, and you have the free adoption of the tree
Arbor Day
going on at the same time, which is Saturday before.
So you do have something then?
Yes, sir.
I think if we have it all in one fell swoop, I think we need to start earlier with the kids performing first, and then having the lighting, and then having Beethoven, because it's gonna be too late, I think.
So in the
So it
past,
starts at 6.
right, I saw
But
that
we only have about a
5:30.
we only have about a 2-hour window there, but if we could start like at, 5:15 with the kids in the,
So
see,
the
they
problem-
all wanna be in the community center,
So
that's the problem.
Right, so the problem is you gotta wait for it to be dark, right, to turn on the lights.
Yeah.
And so, that's why we start the event only at 5:30, moving into 6, so it's dark enough for the lights to have the same effect. Versus we've let them go earlier when it's like dusk and it's not the same impact. And so normally it's the lights coming on, Northside sings, and we go about our way. And so when we add the Beethoven band, it becomes a little bit problematic. If you could do it, and it's just, again, it's going just to be an extended.
Well, that's what I was thinking, we ought to start early, but anyway, Mr. Hefner, how about you? You've got kids. What do you think?
Let's see, my kid's favorite is the Charlie Brown Christmas tree.
The Charlie Brown Christmas tree,
You gotta have
okay.
Charlie Brown Christmas tree. So whoever's brainchild that was fantastic. Sunset on December 5th is at 5:35 p.m. I know it takes a little bit later to get dark, but I think we start at 6. We let the Marshall band play, kind of get it's like an opener, right? You get people like in the mood, play some Christmas music, and then hey, build some fanfare, and we light the tree, and then kind of you have the after with Beethoven, and like, is there? I don't know how big the stage is or how big the setup is, but I think it would make sense just from a logistics perspective. Could you set up one stage on one end of the conference center, one stage on the other end, and then just have them switch so that you're not doing.
Unfortunately, I wasn't here last year, but maybe Crystal can answer that, the logistics of the layout.
So what happens is Beethoven band likes to come at 4 o'clock and start tuning their instruments and setting up. The kids start showing up probably around 4:30ish, and they start piling in. They're there to see Santa and all that great stuff. And they come in, they pile in, and last year what happened was Beethoven band was insistent about being in the community center for acoustics, and what ended up happening is I put them in the conference center, and there was standing room only, it overflowed into the patio, and Josh Stevens, Counselor Stevens, just sent me these pictures. This is like the max that came out to hear the Beethoven band for the most part. So we had all these tables and chairs set up, and that was pretty much
So they only utilize that little corner there
Okay.
for their band setup, I guess, so it's not very big, so yeah, I guess depending on the school band size.
Can you keep going? So the other.
Excuse me.
Oh.
Yeah.
So that was the kids inside the conference center.
Data, right? We talked about data earlier.
Well, because all the parents are coming out to see their kids, of course. That's why. Yes, sir. And did y'all see Mr. Bradshaw in there?
Yeah, go back to the picture where I'm
Yeah,
in.
that's right. He wanted you to see him.
Yeah, I wanna see.
Further down. No, the other way. And I said, who is that guy?
Is
There
that
he
that guy with the Santa hat? No, but if you notice, Beethoven band, leave it on this picture, Crystal, please. They're in the corner right there, and then you've got the fireplace thing set up where Santa was. Can we do that, like one corner there and the other corner set up that stage, the platform they had, so they can sing and then.
Yeah, so no, the answer to that, see, this is the kids that are singing, but what you don't see in this picture, you see where this there's another band all on this side of the wall.
Yeah.
So there's the kids singing, and what they're singing to is the band, and so what you don't see is there's a whole other band from this part of the wall. I don't even know if it's.
Do we have to have both of them though? Can we just have one?
No, so they come together, because we asked last year when we were trying to figure this situation out, and they said we come as a package deal. The people sing to them.
Is that still Tatnef and Leon Valley Elementary?
And so
okay.
it's part of, they've been doing it for a
years.
And so they look forward, it's part of their, what, I guess, not their curriculum, but as the box that they check as part of the.
They've already confirmed.
Okay.
And so this is the band part that's on this side, you can kind of see them, and then the kids sing stuff over there.
I still think it can be done. I think you set the stage up in front of the Santa Claus place in the middle, and you set that one band off to the side and the other band off to the other side. I think
Yeah, so
It's
if you're
two
looking
different
at this,
buildings. Let's try it.
It's 2 different buildings.
My concern is it not fit, and then who do I move?
Battle of the Bands.
Yeah. I mean, we want them both to be a part of our event, and we welcome them to Leon Valley.
So Beethoven Band has never been part of this event. They added on last year.
Oh, they were new last year.
They were new last
Well,
year.
no, they've been part of our community for, 20 years. Longer. Yeah,
Yes, I'm not saying that
they've been
shouldn't be.
doing an annual concert or two for years.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea for them to be involved if they want to be. However,
they do.
Pause for a second. If you look at this picture, I think that it's totally reasonable to say, with the amount of footprint that Beethoven Man needs to take up, looking at this picture, if you put it in the corner that Mr. Bradshaw is looking at, right? Put them there. You put Marshall's band over, left and right side of Santa's little fireplace.
So normally what's here is Santa, the Santa
Right.
chair, right? Santa Claus normally goes there. Last year he was shoved in a corner at the conference center. And so, we can.
Yeah, I think this is a problem that we could definitely solve.
Yeah, I think so
Or
too.
staff could solve. And
Combine it.
Put them in one, we can soothe some ruffled feathers of like who's practicing and warming up when, and come to a compromise.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I just wanna make sure that, everybody's on the same page on what your expectations are.
I think it'll work. Yeah. Counselor Stevens.
Okay, so I understand it may be a little bit late to do this year, but I think just from what y'all initially said, away from this topic really quick and then I'll go back. But I think we need to look at purchasing scissor lifts and perhaps a stage, because the cost is maybe we'll have it paid for in a handful of years, and I'm sure that you rent it at other times of the year for trimming trees and stuff like that. We definitely probably just need to purchase 2 of those and get it done with. Instead of paying $6,500 down the drain for an asset we'll never have. That's just my opinion. But now, because I don't think the Christmas lighting will ever go away. I think that we'll always do this, so it'll be an asset that we'll be able to purchase. With regards to this, I think the only thing that is very clear in the pictures is that the children need to be able to be in the large, if they're going to be in a facility, if we aren't doing it outdoors, which is probably wise to at least have a backup plan if we're gonna do it indoors or outdoors. But the children need to be in a larger facility. You can't tell in this photo, but a lot of the parents were not even able to stand in this room, and they were out in the hallway area outside of the room, and so it was just not accommodating to them at all. And it's clear in the pictures. In Beethoven Band, they may have gotten a handful more people to show up, but there was probably never more than 20 people in the audience at any given point. So
that's why if you have them together, they'll have synergy. They'll each have
I just
they'll
want to make
each
sure.
be successful.
I just want to make sure that they fit. And Northside, again, we're trying to cultivate that relationship. I want to make, and they were really upset last year when this happened, and almost didn't want to come back.
Okay, well let's try it.
And so we can put them all in the community center and give it a.
Okay, Mr. Meyer, what would you like to say?
Not much.
Okay. Well, you are a musician. You are a musician. Do you think that we could have both of them
Not a very
together?
good one, but that's okay.
Oh, come on.
No, I think that Will had a great idea. The idea of parents bringing their kids at a reasonable time, maybe 5, gives them a chance to get their kids home, give them a snack, and get them to this, and then not run too late. Let's be honest, most kids, or most parents of kids this age, they're gonna go to a concert no matter what that their kid's involved in. They're probably not gonna care that much about the lighting. So maybe right after they finish performing, light things up right before Beethoven starts, that'd be a good compromise. But yeah, I can see when it comes to elementary kids, you're gonna get all the parents there, so there's gonna be a big crowd. It's very different from Beethoven, right? Beethoven is a more formal setting, but you're not going there and having all the family coming out to attend that, of the
But
members.
it's all Christmas music and it gets you in the spirit, let me tell you.
No, I agree, and so I think combining it on the same day is probably the best way to go, just starting early. Yeah.
Thank you. Yes. Yes, sir. Mr. Hefner, and then Miss.
Yeah, sorry, one last thing I would suggest. I think inside is the backup plan.
Well, we can't. So outside is a little bit more problematic, especially for Beethoven Band. They don't want to be outside.
They won't be outside.
They won't do outside. So they're already a no there. We could possibly have the children somewhere. I know it doesn't look like it, but this piece, if you take a look, plus this band on the whole side of the wall,
I guess what I'm thinking is the whole event is the tree lighting, right? And so what I felt like last year was you had music inside in 2 different buildings.
Well, they're also there to see Santa, so the big part of this event. So.
Right. But if we're trying to build around the tree lighting, like that's kind of the culminating event, it's a moment, but that's what we're building for. I feel like it makes sense to do it outside if we can. And then whether, if weather doesn't allow, then we go inside.
I just don't know where to
Put it.
Yeah, because I mean, we've got a lot of stuff going on with the tree lighting happening.
Okay, Ms. Jason, enlighten us with your comments.
Tina Jason Forrest of Canterfield. I was just asking Mr. You had said something in the beginning about adding more lights. And since it is seasonal, why don't we decide to go solar instead of worrying about upgrading any more of the electrical and going through that? It's only going to be used, it'll last probably past all of our lifetime with the LED, solar lights. We get full sunshine, so those areas up in the tree at the top or off to the side on a pole can have the solar lamps. I have solar all through my yard, and it's on every night. And it's a good, I think, solution that we could look into, since you have to buy the lights anyway. And then they always go on sale after the holiday, and you could stock up for the next year. That's all.
Very good. All right. Okay. Any more direction that you need? Yes, Councilor Stevens.
So I kind of forgot about that element. So do we need to maybe bring back a budget adjustment to upgrade the electrical to whatever will work?
So we're getting quotes, and we haven't gotten those finalized yet. But
electricians are expensive.
Right.
Easy.
And I did ask them to put some quotes in for like a solar street lamp. So that way maybe we could put some garlands, some reeds, and decorate it up a little bit. But haven't gotten those numbers yet. But we're probably looking at, what did you say, 1 to 6,000, 5,000?
Okay, so now Vincent Direction, we're gonna look at one event and we're gonna put everybody inside the community center.
See if we can do that.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds great. All righty. Thank you. I appreciate it, Crystal. All right. Moving then to announcements by the mayor and city council. Well, this week, I think, is everyone going to TML at some time or another? Yes. So that's Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, half day Friday at the conference center. And I'm sure some of our staff members are going as well, since it's in town, which is great. And so anyway, I think we'll all look forward to learning a lot, and there's a lot of great seminars. Just want to remind everyone that if you haven't registered to vote, it's October 11th, which is right around the corner, then followed by early voting. And then last but not least, the Leon Valley Historical Society is going to have their annual Pioneer Blue Jean Gala on Friday, November 4th, 6:30 to 10:30, and there'll be more information on that later, but I just wanted to give that announcement as well. Okay, who else would like to? Mr. Martinez, do you have any announcements this evening?
No, I don't.
Okay, and Mr. Stevens, and Mr. Hefner. I know we've had a lot of, I know, Mr. Roscoe.
I do want to congratulate Marshall for the new water polo team. I think they won the first game. I didn't know that they had one until I saw them practicing at Council Bradshaw swimming pool. Congrats.
Okay, Mr. Bradshaw. Okay, and Dr. Caldera, you're next. What would you like to add to your agenda?
So we were supposed to go live with the new website and kind of that whole package October the 1st. There were some issues with some of the design issues on the website, and I didn't want to release an inferior site and get more calls on that. So we are currently still on the old website. The new piece is ready to go. Meeting code, meeting docs is ready to go. It's just living on that new site for right now. It's probably going to be about 2 more weeks until I can get the design cleared up a little bit more, so we should be hopefully ready to go by the next council meeting. And so the agendas will be where the agendas are used to being. For right now, we're posting that information on the home page of our current website. As you mentioned, we thank James for being here this evening for live streaming our council meeting. And so I was struggling with that a little bit, but I didn't want to release a site that was going to lead to more questions and concerns. And so I wanted to make sure we released a site that was ready to go. So that's what we're waiting on, and we'll make sure that we'll notify the council when that's about to happen. The other thing is National Night Out is tomorrow. We only have 3 neighborhoods signed up. So if you wanna be a late ad, please give us a call. Please call Crystal Miranda or shoot me an email.
We only have 3 neighbors.
We only have 3 neighborhoods signed up yet for National Night Out.
Oh, no.
So
More
Pavona,
Stokes.
what was the other one, Crystal?
Pavona, Jason, Ellen, and Medford.
Oh, no.
So just letting you all know, we only have 3 that said, so if you know of anybody else or heard of anybody else, they may have just not have signed up or just didn't let us know, you know, just please, let us know so we can make sure we add you to our.
Are we gonna meet here at the, City Hall and be escorted by the police department?
Yeah, so, we would be here at City Hall beginning at, I forgot what time we were doing.
If it's only 3, you could meet a little bit later.
Yeah, we can probably get here about.
Linda's doesn't start till 7 to 8:30, I think. Linda Medford, yeah.
So we can be here about 5:45-ish, and then we can start, I mean, there's some that 6 to 9 was kind of the
Okay.
the time frame, and so it's up to y'all, we can get here at 6 and then just start going to the one that's the earliest and then make our way that way, if y'all wanna do that. Or y'all are more than what we can send you the addresses and you're more than welcome to go on your own, or you can come and ride with the police department while we go around.
Can you do both? Because I mean, we have to go to Odessa tomorrow, which is a 10-hour round trip.
Our police and fire normally hit the neighborhoods, but for sure we're gonna have, at least 2 police vehicles hit those sites, and so if you wanna join us and won't go with us, more than welcome to. But midday to, tomorrow, I'll go ahead and release those addresses to you, so if you wanna go on your own, you can.
Alright. Okay, yes,
By
Councilor Martinez.
any chance, will we have one of the, police cars that have been wrapped?
I don't know which police cars are gonna go tomorrow. I'll check with, Chief Gonzalez. Normally it's the chief's vehicles, so they're unmarked vehicles.
But it'd be nice to have, I understand at least one car's been wrapped.
I think we have 2 that have been
Okay,
wrapped.
that would be beautiful to show that off tomorrow night.
We'll see what we've got and I'll let you know. But if you wanna get here at 6, we'll be more than happy to transport y'all around. If not, you're more than welcome to go on your own.
Okay.
And that's pretty much it.
I just wanted to add, I asked, the coffee with the mayor and council is on October 22nd. And I was asking Crystal, could we hold it outside? This weather is just so delightful. You know, just sit outside and just have the coffee and just hear the citizens. And so we're gonna try to do that, is that my understanding?
So it's just the coffee with mayor, there's not gonna be any agenda topics.
No agenda.
We're gonna go back to the roots of why the coffee existed.
Right.
And the coffee existed was for the community to come out and meet their elected officials, and we have the staff present there so we can help y'all answer any questions. So instead of having like a traditional council
PowerPoint,
agenda, PowerPoints, we can be outside with some coffee and some baked goods, and we'll just be there for a couple of hours and meet the citizens.
Yeah, what do y'all think? And I love just, you know, this weather is just so wonderful, so hopefully if it's not rain, well, we need rain.
Jinxed it,
but
probably.
Okay, so I just wanted to add that. Thank you for working with me on that request. Your request. I just jinxed it, oh, stop. Okay, thank you, Dr. Caldera. We'll move on to the consent agenda, 9.1 to 9.4. Anyone want to remove any of those items for discussion?
Okay.
Okay, you do?
Yes, the minutes of our last meeting.
The minutes of our last meeting, number 1. Do you just have specific?
On the tax rate, in the discussion, it shows that I was a nay, but in the chart, it shows that I was a yay.
Okay.
Oh, and the boxes are probably mixed, I can fix that.
Okay, so
no problem.
Thank you. With that correction, can we have a motion and a second? All right.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilor Orozco and a second by Councilor Hefner to approve the consent agenda with the one correction on the minutes as stated. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion does carry. Moving then to the regular agenda, we have 4 first reads. That means no vote, and then we can decide where we want to put it at the next meeting. 10.1 presentation and discussion of an ordinance authorizing budget adjustments for the FY 22-23 for carryover capital projects. And we have Kevin Rule, our finance director, here to present. Good evening and welcome.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is the budget adjustment for capital products that we have started in previous years, but were not able to finish the last fiscal year that we just finished up over the weekend. So, summary, just approve the ordinance for this year's budget, totaling $3.5 million. Options you can recommend, or you can approve it, or you can deny it. Like I said, these projects started in last year or even before then, but have not finished. There are here's the projects: the Hubner Creek hike and bike trail, a dump truck for public works, well generators for water, well houses, elevated storage tank, and Seneca West drain improvement projects. Once again, it was approved previous years, but those projects were not finished. This is what it's going to look like with the income. We have an increase in transfers and also reimbursements. And then the yellow is the actual expense that we're showing. But here's the income coming in to fund those, and then the yellow is the expense going out. But what we're looking at as a financial impact is general fund reserve, $541,000, art funds 204, water fund reserve balance 286, stormwater balance is 122, and grants and reimbursements are a little bit over 2.2 million. Now, this money that we're taking out of general fund, art, water, and stormwater, basically at the end of the year, that money was put back into fund balance. So really, we're just taking it once again out of fund balance, and we're going to move it back to capital. So it's no new allocation of money. It's just new year, we have to do it into capital. One thing that we did on this year's budget plan, if you remember, is that we actually now have a capital program and we have a capital fund. So because it is in the capital fund, we won't have to do these rollovers in the coming years. Once the money goes into the capital, it stays into the capital, and we don't have to do a budget amendment each year. But this year we do. So,
all right, any questions? I know you're recommending that we approve it, but it is the first read, so we don't vote on it tonight.
Correct.
Are there any questions, and then we can decide what we want to do for the next meeting? Yes, Mr. Martinez.
I think we've all been through these projections several times, and everybody here on the dais should be well aware of what these different items are. So I'm recommending it be put on the consent agenda for next meeting.
Okay.
Second.
All right. Without objection, we'll put it on the consent agenda. Thank you, Mr. Roll. Do appreciate your input on that agenda item. Number 10.2, discussion and possible action on an ordinance repealing and replacing the Leon Valley Code of Ordinances, Chapter 3, Building Regulations, Article 3.02, Technical and Construction Codes and Standards, Divisions 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, with a new Division 2, Technical and Construction Codes adopted, amending Article 3.06 swimming pools, and amending Appendix A of the Code of Ordinances, Article A8.000 building and construction related fees, Section A8.001 contractor registration fee, to adopt the 2020 National Electric Code and the 2021 International Residential Building, Mechanical, Plumbing, Swimming pool and spa, fuel, gas, energy and conservation, and existing building codes with amendments, and removing contractor registration fees. This is, again, is our first read, no vote tonight, but Ms. Mortz, if you'll begin. Thank you.
Thank you. As you said, this is to update our codes and to add a couple of new ones in there. So here's the codes that we're under right now. You recently adopted the 2021 International Property Maintenance Code. We never had adopted a swimming pool code, and we never adopted the International Fuel Gas Code. The Fuel Gas Code is at the request of the building inspector, and the International Swimming Pool Code is at the request of our health inspector. Codes should be reviewed and updated every 4 or so years to keep up with current building construction safety. Adopting these codes just gives you a minimum standard. These are not, excellent. It just says that if you're gonna build something, you at least have to build it to this. And so that happens at the local level, but Texas municipal building, residential, fire, plumbing, blah, 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 are actually promulgated through the legislation in state statute. And you can find those at the Texas State Law Library website. We can make local amendments to these codes, and we can also adopt later editions of them. The energy code is promulgated through SECO. We can adopt local amendments to that as well, but they can't be less stringent than what it says when you're in a non-attainment and affected county. July of 2018, EPA designated Bexar County as a non-attainment with a marginal classification. So we can't be any less strict than this code. So the 2021 updates would be to those, and then we're adding the 2021 International Fuel Gas Code, 2021 International Swimming Pool and Spa. And then the 2017 National Electric Code would be up to the 2020 edition. That's not put out by the International Code Council, it's actually put out by the National Electric Code. The big thing here, or not big, but to bring it to your attention, we're proposing removing the fee to register a contractor's trade license. Right now we charge $100. You cannot charge HVAC tradesmen that fee by state law. It takes very little staff time to do this process. Basically, we tell the contractor, go into My Permits Now and upload your current license, pay the $100, and then the only other time we look at it is when somebody applies for a building permit, we go and see if they're currently registered. So we're saying, since it takes such a little bit of our time to do that we probably shouldn't require a fee from anyone. It still requires them to have one. So amendments to these codes have to be done. They're by the Code Council. If you look up the codes, it says insert your jurisdiction name here, insert the responsible party here. So it goes through all these insert heres. And so basically that's what we did for all of them. There was a couple of them where I did put the reference to our floodplain management and to our zoning code, and then we removed all the means of appeal and board of appeals. We don't have a board of appeals. We have never needed one. We revised the refund policy to be as determined by the city manager instead of the building official, and that was in most of the codes. Inserted the recently adopted International Property Maintenance Code into the article, but we didn't do any changes to the council's approved text like you just did. We changed violation statements in most codes to remove jail time and inserted the current violation penalty fee. It's a Class C misdemeanor, $500. Removed the reference to the rainfall intensity chart in the building code to refer to our subdivision code. The fiscal impact is just to that contractor license fee. So far this year to date, it was $6,700 that we collected. And so that's all we have. Does anybody have any questions?
Would you explain the fuel gas? What is that about? Fuel gas?
I have no idea. We'll have to ask the building inspector if he was like, please do that one too. I'm sure it has to do with gas piping into your house and that kind of stuff.
All right. I didn't know if it was that or gas in your car. I just didn't know.
These all have to do with building.
Okay, I just wasn't sure. Oh, that's true. It's all with building. Thank you. Okay, yes, sir, Mr. Hefner.
So just a couple of questions. 2 new codes, fuel gas and pool spa. Do these only apply when a new thing is being built, or how and when would they apply to repairs or updates or things like that?
Each one of the codes has exceptions for things that were previously built. And so if you were built to the 2015 code, you don't necessarily have to bring your property up to the 2021, and that's true in all of them.
So if there's a pool that exists today, I'm thinking about our city pools, but a pool exists today, it's okay under the prior code, but what would be the threshold that if our city were to update our pool, we would now have to bring it up to spec with this new code?
No, not necessarily, but there were certain things that we did do to our pools because of life safety issues, like Virginia Graham Baker drains. We went and electrically bonded both the pools, those sorts of things. We try to keep ourselves from being sued, obviously, or killing someone. So.
Well, but I'm also thinking about citizens as well, right? Is there a threshold that, I think there was another code we thought about recently that was like if you spend over, was it $50,000 or something in aggregate, that it triggers the thing, right? So that's kind of what I'm trying to get at with those two, just because they're new codes. And then the only other question I had was around, you mentioned there's no appeals, or it's, on page 136, I think it is on my packet.
We took the section that's in the code out, that International Code Council code. We have an appeals method in our Division 3.
Right, and is that Board of Adjustment?
No, that goes to the building inspector, city manager, the staff.
Okay, and then if a citizen had issue with a staff decision, they bring it to council?
They could if they wanted to, we've never had one.
Okay, yeah, I'm not saying we never have or ever would need to, but I'm just trying to make sure that we're articulating what the due process would be for a citizen. Thank you.
All right, any other questions? Okay, I don't see anyone else's hand, so thank you, Ms. Marks. Is it the wish of the council to put this on the consent agenda for the next meeting? Okay. Thank you. Agenda item number 10.3, presentation and discussion of a budget adjustment in the amount of $633,167 from the Stormwater Fund balance to fund engineering and design of a flood and erosion control project in Heber Creek. And again, this is our first read. Ms. Moritz, you brought this back pretty quick.
Get them done.
Oh, I tell you.
So this is just the budget adjustment to pay for the Heber Creek second.
That was September 20th.
Last meeting.
Yeah, last meeting. I mean, I was real surprised to see it on this meeting. So,
I was trying to be the first budget adjustment of the year, but I haven't got in front of you.
Haven't got in front of you. Okay, go ahead.
So anyway, this is just that, to authorize a budget adjustment to pay for those improvements that y'all wanted to see on Heber Creek. And so your options are to recommend or deny.
Okay, and that it would be at the next meeting.
Yes.
Do we need more discussion, or would y'all like this on the consent
I
agenda?
think we can put it on consent.
Need disagreement on that? Okay.
Just to make sure I'm understanding. Currently, our fund balance is 1.4 million in stormwater.
It was as of 9:30. Mr. Rule has made some changes to the enterprise fund, and so he separated out water from sewer from stormwater for this year. But there is funding in there for this.
Okay. And do we know what the fund balance would be after this project?
Not currently, but we can get you that figure.
Thank you.
So the last meeting, it was 1.2, and we're gonna take out 633, but that's not gonna be the actual number yet.
Like
So
I
you'll
said,
let us know.
yeah,
Maybe
we'll
at the next meeting. Okay.
Yeah,
Very good.
or just an email.
Yeah, and then meanwhile, we're getting more money. I understand that. Okay, very good, thank you. 10.4, presentation public hearing and discussion of an ordinance revising chapter 15 zoning division 7 permitted use table, section 15.02.381 permitted use table to remove the requirement for a specific use permit from the use mobile food unit. And then again, this is our first read, and Ms. T. Good evening, Mindy, and we're glad you're here.
Thank you.
If you'll begin, please, thank you.
So the purpose is to amend chapter 15, the zoning, division 7, to remove the SUP requirement from the use of mobile food units. And this was requested by council. So over the past several years, staff has received numerous inquiries about mobile food trucks. In April 2021, it was added to our city's zoning code with the requirement that an SUP is required and only allowed in non-residential zoning districts, so like business. So the SUP requirement is designed to regulate uses that may adversely affect traffic, public health, public utilities, public safety, the general welfare of the public, and to ensure that the use does not adversely affect the character or the appropriate use of the area. So at the September 27th Planning and Zoning Commission, they did recommend approval. So the removal of the specific use permit requirement would encourage food trucks to operate more frequently in our city and may increase sales tax revenue.
So I know we passed this ordinance about a year ago for food trucks in the park, right?
I believe that was last
And have we had any food trucks in the park
I don't
at
think
all?
so.
And is this why we think that we're not getting food trucks, is because of this SUP requirement?
Well, the SUP is only required in certain areas, they wouldn't have been required in the food trucks in the park. Two separate issues.
Okay.
But we had brought 2 food trucks, I think somebody came for a food truck park, that they were doing to the property. Counselor Hefner at that meeting requested that we bring that back to the future agenda item and have to go to zoning commission first. They're recommending, approval to remove the SUP from that process. Food trucks are allowed by right now under certain provisions of the, zoning code that was passed almost a year and a half ago, but it's still left in the SUP as a requirement. So that way we could make sure traffic flow or, just different variances in regards to that. This would remove that process and make it a little bit easier for them to do.
We had a food truck at Seneca and Bandera, is that still there? Or is that gone away?
He was there for a little while and then he was gone.
Okay,
So,
and then we had
and did an SUP as well, and we required, I think with that one, to have a little bit of vegetation. I like for it to look aesthetically pleasing, and that was a point of contention at that time.
The one at Seneca and Bandera. Now, didn't we have another one at 410 and at the gas station? Is that one still there?
I don't know.
Oh, wow.
Food trucks are mobile, they come and go, that's
I
why they're
know,
mobile.
okay, I'm just curious as to, why we're, some cities have we have that other man that came in.
Correct.
They wanted to put something on Grissom.
That's what spurred this one, because
Okay.
he had 3 different food trucks on his property, he had to come for an SUP to do that.
Okay, all right, very good, thank you. I'm just wondering why we are having difficulty getting food trucks in our city, that's all. Yes,
No, we don't
Mr.
have difficulty getting food trucks in our city, we have difficulty getting the food trucks at the park, that request was at the park, food trucks at the park.
Well,
That was a pilot, yeah.
Okay, isn't that our city, our park?
Well, yes,
You
but I
understand,
mean,
that's what I'm-
you're talking 2 different things. People want visibility along Bandera Road, and so we get a lot of requests for food trucks to be along our shopping centers along
Okay,
Bandera Road.
all right, I see. Mr. Martinez, what would you like to add to the conversation?
I'm glad this is coming before us. I've been an advocate for removing the SUP requirement for quite a while. I think it's kind of bad for the one at the Shell gas station. We required the SUP for the food truck, but then we told, I guess the owner of the property had to put in some trees and some landscaping, and he, I'm gonna let my friend put his food truck there, but now the city's requiring me to spend money to allow a freebie. So I'm glad this has come about.
Okay. All right. Any other comments? Yes, Counselor.
Yeah, I would support this and putting it on the consent agenda for the next meeting. I will say the issue with the park was a pilot program that we tried, and that's why we do pilot programs, to see do they work. Was there interest? And so there wasn't in that particular case. I do think that reducing this level of regulation will allow more flexibility for mobile food trucks, which is something more interesting.
Okay, very good. So is it the consensus? Mr. Hefner said consent agenda, so we'll make a note of that as well. Okay, moving then to the last regular agenda item, number 10.5, discussion and possible action on the juvenile curfew ordinance review and ordinance renewal. This is a second read, and so we would be able to vote on it. And Chief gets on with you for this evening. And I guess, didn't we leave it to where 2 counselors were going to work with our city attorney on the ordinance?
So we provided feedback, the 2, so it was Counselor Hefner and Ray Russell provided feedback.
Okay.
This is the only feedback we got other than table it indefinitely,
Okay.
was the other portion.
Okay.
Was to move the time frame from 12 p.m. to 12 a.m.
Okay.
And then taking out the school day situation. And so essentially we would just be able to take a look at the curfew for kids from 12 a.m. to 6 a.m. during that time.
So that's the only thing we're updating is the time.
The time and that taking out Part B, if you take a look at
Taking out Part B, okay.
The daytime curfew.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
Again, those are the only changes that we put in. It was reviewed by the attorney. council can either decide to move it forward
Right.
as is, do nothing, vote on it, have a hearing, and reenact.
So we took out during the school hours, that provision then. Okay, all right, I understand. Any questions?
This is, I believe, a change that Hefner submitted, and I saw that. I definitely agree with it.
Okay, all right, Mr. Hefner?
Yeah, so there was, these were a couple of changes. I did want to, if you don't mind scrolling down, Crystal. Sorry, if you look at, I apologize, scroll back up. If you look at section A, lawful for a minor to remain, purpose to remain, walk around, stand, drive, or ride about in or upon any public place. So I just wanted to visit the public place definition. So if you could scroll down, Crystal. If we define public place somewhere.
No, I mean, public place is anything that's.
Oh, there it is.
There it is, right there at the top, yep.
Any place to which the public or substantial group of the public has access and includes, but is not limited to streets, highways, and the common areas of schools, hospitals, apartment houses, office buildings, transport facilities, and shops.
Yeah, okay, I'm good with this with the removal of the daytime, because the thing that was a cognitive dissonance for me was that we had a daytime curfew that said minors couldn't remain in a public place, and a public place was defined as common areas of schools. It just didn't make sense, but I think in removing the daytime portion of it, I think that makes sense, and adjusting the timing to midnight to 6 a.m. I think that's good, so I'm good with this being on consent.
All right, no, we can actually vote on it tonight. This is our second read. So, would you like to make a motion? If there's no other.
We have to have public hearing?
Yeah, no, but I was supposed to have a public hearing on the food truck. I'm sorry. Do I need to go back on that? Sorry. I just realized that.
We can do that. Why don't we vote on this and we'll go back to this?
Okay, thank you. I apologize. I circled it and my oversight. My apologies. No, okay. So your motion?
Yeah, I will move that we adopt 10.5 as amended.
Okay.
I second.
We have a motion by Councilor Hefner and a second by Councilor Roscoe to approve 10.5, the juvenile curfew ordinance renewal as amended. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion does carry. Thank you, Chief. Do appreciate your help. And we'll move back then to 10.4 on the specific use permits for the food truck. And let me open up the public hearing at 9:26 because I forgot to do it. Oh, yes.
I'm sorry, I had a question on the last motion.
Yes.
Was it as amended or as presented?
I said as amended, but
yeah.
I think that was an amendment from the first reading.
Because we didn't amend his
No, we didn't
presentation.
amend. Okay,
Just
as
as
presented.
presented.
Yeah, as presented. Okay, thank you for that. I appreciate that. All right, so our public hearing on the food truck is 9:26, opening. Is there anyone in the chambers that would like to address this issue on the SUP? Okay, seeing no one, then we'll close the public hearing at 9:26 and then move it to the consent agenda at the next meeting, which is October the 18th. All right, number 11, citizens to be heard. Any citizen that would like to address the council this evening? We've had a really robust meeting tonight. Oh, okay, we have Mr. Bowl. All right. All right, good evening and welcome back.
Thank you. The last couple meetings, I've obviously not been here. I've been working, but I have been watching. And I tried to go back through all the footage to find which day it was. But I remember the topic of discussion was a procedure, an ordinance of sorts brought forth by Councilman Martinez regarding the Airbnbs and short-term rentals. And I was watching that meeting, and a great deal of those who spoke, primarily one of them being Councilman Hefner. Well, unfortunately, I don't believe the city attorney was there for that particular, here physically for that meeting. Could be wrong. I was at work. I multitask quite a bit. But what was said and admitted in open was that he has a few Airbnbs. He openly said that he has a financial interest in the impact of the presented topic, and by his influence and discussion, got the item tabled indefinitely. There was no come back with a better idea. There was nothing. That was, in fact, violating the conflict of interest rule. That does exist, at least at the state level. As this, I'm sure the city council forgot, being that they did away with the city level ethics and did not take any of the ethics courses provided by the state or the city staff. That is against the law, and he should have abstained from any vote and should have probably limited even his own point of view in the matter by simply saying, hey, I have a stake in this financially. So he benefited from having it tabled. And city attorney could attest to the fact that that is not something he should have done. And you need to be aware that in the future, when discussing anything more on something you have a financial interest in directly, you shouldn't be voting on it, much less discussing it, abstain, let the discussion run its course, and go from there. And that is something I'll warn you about when you decided to get rid of another layer of transparency and accountability here in the city. So remember that next time, put your foot in your mouth. Thanks.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, seeing no one else, then we will move to requests from members of the city council to add items to future agendas. I talked to Dr. Cordero last week, and we did get our $1.5 million from the ARP fund this week or last week. I can't remember. Last week, that's right. So I've requested that we have that on the next agenda so we can kind of brainstorm, what we'd like to maybe address some of that money for. So that's my 2 cents. Anyone else have something that they'd like on the next agenda? Besides all of the other, yes, sir. Oh, I thought you'd have something, Mr. Stevens.
Google's
Oh, the dog park, okay.
So they're looking at a separate, as I'm gonna be kind of a quick update, they're looking at a second site, their people at B are looking at that site, they needed gas. So where their original hut was gonna be located, there wasn't gas there, and so they're looking at a secondary city-owned site, and so when they get back to us on that secondary site, I'll be able to provide you a better update on that.
Okay. All right, anyone else? Okay, I'm just so proud of this council. 9:31, we moved to adjourn. I beat your, you have no objection. Thank you all very much. Good evening, and we'll see you at the next, we'll see you at National Lab tomorrow. And TML, our busy week. Thank you. Bye-bye.